Chapter 181 Gas Away Asuma. The door was knocked open by Asuma, however, the imaginary picture did not appear in front of him, and an unexpected scene completely occupied his sight. I saw Yuhi being pushed down on the bed by a man, and the two bodies were very close together. The posture of the man on top and the woman on the bottom made people feel a whim. At the moment, Yuhi's face was full of Yuhi's face, and Yuhi lips were kissing Naruto's mouth indifferently. When Asuma came in, it took 3 seconds to react and leave in a panic. After they separated, she and Naruto turned to look at him together. Naruto's heart beat a little faster. Yuhi's kiss just now was real, the soft touch, the fragrant taste, and the sweet body fluid in his mouth, all of which made him unable to control himself, and now he is under the quilt. The two people's foreheads and bodies were closely attached to each other. Although they did not take off their clothes, the real touch and the scalding temperature made the mood of both parties more and more ambiguous. Can't help it, Naruto is hard. Then, Yuhi let out a soft cry. His body tensed up suddenly, and Yuhi's face was wet all over his face, and he was so ashamed that he burrowed directly into the bed. Seeing this scene, Asuma felt that the world had changed. What's going on? Why is Naruto in Yuhi's house? How could he put pressure on Yuhi? Is this Yuhi's demonic illusion? He hurriedly tried to disentangle demonic illusion, but there was no response. He knew it was true. All this is true. But he couldn't accept this fact. He was completely stunned, unaware that the rose in his hand had fallen to the ground, and the cigarette in his mouth had burned to his ass. It seemed like a long time later, Asuma finally came to his senses. Realizing what he was about, he hurriedly turned around and walked out, not even closing the door in time. The two of Naruto got up from the bed. Yuhi tidied up the messy clothes on his body, and sighed softly. Finally solved this trouble, I hope it's not too much. Naruto shook his head and laughed. I think he's going to be beaten to death. Yuhi frowned. Forget it, he won't say anything about it anyway, and it won't affect my reputation in Konoha. Although this is a bit extreme, at least for my future life, I will get rid of this. Trouble is much freer. Quote. Does he really not say it? Naruto expressed concern. Well, probably not. Yuhi nodded. The tide on her face hadn't receded yet. Due to the tension just now, she was still panting slightly, and fell asleep. There are beautiful arcs in front of people. Naruto only felt that he was covered in flames. He clamped his legs, but he couldn't cover up the high tent, so he said awkwardly, Mr. Yuhi, should this be over? I should go back. Yuhi sneaked a glance at Naruto's crotch. His face was Yuhi again, nodded, and suddenly said again, Naruto, I wronged you this time. It's nothing, it's just a little effort. Naruto smiled, and after saying that, he was ready to use the Hiraishin technique to go back. As soon as he turned around, he found that his waist was being hugged. Naruto froze suddenly. Mr. Yuhi. I saw Yuhi's pair of jade arms tightly hugging Naruto's waist, and the whole body was attached to his back. With her jade face flushed against Yuhi, she leaned her face on Naruto's back, and smelled intoxicated Naruto's body. Breath, faintly said, Naruto, I'm sorry to make you do such a difficult thing, it's the teacher's fault, don't blame me please. Naruto was stunned and opened his mouth, I don't blame you. Then why are you in such a hurry? It's still a long time before going to bed. Naruto felt Yuhi's arms hug him even tighter, and he couldn't help but feel a fiery feeling in his heart. Of course he couldn't say that he had to go back as soon as possible because you were too tempting and he couldn't stand it. He could only smile bitterly. Bai is still at home, I have to go back to accompany her. Yuhi was silent for a while, then let go of Naruto's waist and came to him, lowered his head and stared at Naruto's bulging crotch. Yuhi's face was moist, and said softly, is it uncomfortable? Naruto was stunned. What? Aren't you uncomfortable here? Yuhi suddenly grabbed Naruto's firmness with his hand, which made Naruto involuntarily let out a soft cry, and his face changed suddenly. Mr. Yuhi, don't be like this. Naruto's heart beat violently, and when she was slammed by her soft little hands, he almost couldn't hold it, and his heart was full of surprise. It was me and you were so uncomfortable, didn't you? Yuhi raised his head suddenly. Those charming Yuhi-colored pupils stared straight at him. Yin Yuhi's lips opened slightly, looking extremely charming. Naruto was a little dizzy at the sudden situation. Heard Yuhi say again, "You helped me so much today, I should report to you once, come, sit down." She finally let go of Naruto's bottom, closed the door, and then put Naruto back sit down on the bed. "Mr. Yuhi." Yuhi smiled charmingly at him, and suddenly squatted down in front of Naruto, pulling the zipper between Naruto's legs with both hands. The huge thing suddenly popped out, and Yuhi let out a soft whimper, and his whole body trembled. Naruto widened his eyes and let her do what he did, only to see her knees slowly between Naruto's legs, opening her sexy Yuhi lips and slowly leaning under Naruto. Oh! Naruto couldn't help feeling agitated all over his body, and he almost shot out with his hands on the bed sheet. He felt that he had entered an extremely warm and humid place, and the feeling was completely indescribable in words. "Oh teacher Yuhi, you know. What are you doing?" Naruto was a little stunned, but the unparalleled pleasure made him unable to push Yuhi away at all, just watching Yuhi holding his own. Continue to swallow below. Yuhi's movements are very jerky, but she does it very seriously, with a rose-like Yuhi moisturizing on her face, and those deep Yuhi-colored pupils are also full of autumnal spring waves. After a while, Yuhi spit out Naruto's stuff and said softly, "I feel so sorry for you being so uncomfortable, and now I can only let you vent like this." Naruto silently looked at Yuhi, who was kneeling between his legs and started to move again, enjoying the waves of pleasure. He simply ignored it, closed his eyes and let her move. Finally, after more than 30 minutes, Naruto's body shook slightly, and a thick and hot life essence sprayed into Yuhi's warm little mouth. Yuhi's pupils shrank suddenly, and she frowned at the fishy smell in her mouth, but she still spit it out after Naruto had finished spraying it, and found another piece of paper to spit the sticky stuff on it, and then spit it out. Reaching out and wiping the leftovers at the corner of his mouth, he looked up at Naruto. "Are you okay now?" Naruto stared blankly at Yuhi's beautiful face. Yuhi smiled lightly. "Naruto, go back." Chapter 182 Mokuden, Wood Style. Naruto left. Yuhi lay on his bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. She didn't even know she would do such a thing to him. Perhaps, he has long been unable to let go of him in his heart, right? In the past 3 years, every time she rejected Asuma's thoughts, Naruto's figure appeared in her mind. She didn't know why she thought about him, why she compared Asuma to him. Perhaps, he really fell in love with this little man who was many years younger than himself. He is so strong, as a man of Jinchuriki column strength. His character is not distorted at all. He is so brave, and sensitive to his identity. He has the courage to pursue his own love, and does not care about the opinions of the people around him. And he is so gentle, carrying behind his back. I went home soaking wet. Everything about him attracted Yuhi so deeply that she couldn't forget it. 3 years later, he is tall, sunny, handsome, and he exudes a more mature manly charm than before. He speaks domineeringly at the meeting, and he is so decisive in the face of the elders who are covering the sky. Yuhi lay on the bed, thinking about Naruto, and unconsciously, she found that her body was wet. However, looking back, she found that her actions were too irrational, and doing so would definitely be more troublesome for Naruto. Why did you just suddenly lose control? When he heard that he was going to go back to accompany another woman, there was a desire in his heart that he didn't want him to go back, and then he did such a ridiculous thing to him. Why? How to face him in the future? Yuhi sighed softly, but he couldn't help thinking about his figure in his mind. Thinking about it, Yuhi's hands couldn't help moving between his legs. A burst of seductive moans sounded quietly in the room. On the dark night road, Naruto walked back silently. He was planning to use Hiraishin to go back. He suddenly wanted to be quiet and think about Yuhi's incident. After all, Yuhi's incident was too sudden. At this time, Asuma was drinking in the tavern all by himself and was very drunk. Early the next morning, Naruto went to the Hokage office to find Tsunade, asked her for the power to study the Book of Seals, and then asked about the status of the Fire Nation's daimyo. I have sent a special post. I believe that the Fire Country daimyo will respond soon. Naruto, your performance yesterday was very good. I think next time even if the Fire Country daimyo comes, I will definitely support you. Tsunade said excitedly. Naruto nodded, and Tsunade said again, the village may be a little unsettled in the past 2 days. As the heir of the 6th generation of Hokage, you must pay attention to safety issues. I have arranged for 2 Anbus to be your guards. That's your shadow guard. Speaking of Tsunade, he waved his hand, and 2 figures suddenly appeared in the room, both of them kneeling half-knelt in front of Naruto. Respectfully, Lord Naruto, my subordinates will be your guards from now on. Naruto glanced at them, but they all knew that Anbu, the girl with long blue-purple hair on the left, was Azuki Yugao, and the girl with long black hair on the right who lowered her head and said nothing was Sayu. Get up. Naruto didn't know what he was thinking. Anyway, it was a bit complicated, especially the big wish that Zuoyu made that day, which made him feel even more overwhelmed. Tsunade smiled slightly. You should know their real identities, so I won't introduce them anymore. You can read the Book of Seals later. Naruto nodded, and after talking to Tsunade a few more words, he left the office. Sayu and Yugao are hiding in secret, silently protecting Naruto. Next, Naruto took the Book of Seals and took it to the training ground where he used to train often. Inside the training ground, a figure was already waiting there. After Naruto entered, the other party's face was filled with joy, and he immediately ran towards him. Exactly, Hinata. Naruto, you really came. Hinata had a sweet smile on her face. Zuiyu, who had been following Naruto, snorted from her nose and ran to the other side to sit down. Although Yugao hated Naruto, she still stood not far from him and silently executed her own tasks. Naruto glanced at Sasu in the distance, turned back and smiled at Hinata. I'll keep you waiting, I'm about to start practicing now, are you coming too? Hinata nodded. I want to practice against Naruto for a while, okay? No problem. Naruto smiled and attacked her. With pure physical skills, Naruto did not lose the slightest against Hyuga's gentle fist. Compared with Hinata's gentle fist, Naruto's close-body technique is both tough and soft, and Hinata loses every moment. Naruto, you are amazing. Hinata's face was filled with disappointment and joy. She thought she had made great progress and could get closer to Naruto, but now it's purely a physical showdown. It's so humiliating to lose so quickly. But on second thought, she was happy again for Naruto's strength, being able to defeat herself so quickly. Naruto's strength has already surpassed her father's, and he really deserves to be a man who wants to become Hokage. Regarding Hinata's performance, Naruto felt that it was unsatisfactory, and he was determined to find an opportunity to improve her, so he set up a shadow clone to discuss body training with her, and give her some unique insights by the way. And his body opened the Book of Seals and untied the seal on it. The Book of Seals is indeed the treasure of Konoha, which records a series of ninjutsu, secret art, and sealing art. Naruto first flipped through it roughly and found that some of the ninjutsus in it were already masters, such as multiple shadow clones, as well as some of the 4th generation of seals, enchantments, etc. Are almost all learned, and the rest are not masters. It is the 1st generation of Mokuden, wood style, and the 2nd generation of the powerful Suiten, water style, demonic illusion and some spacetime ninjutsu. After flipping through the pages, Naruto closed his eyes and pondered for a while, and decided to focus on training the Mokuden, wood style, system left by the 1st generation. He found that this Book of Seals not only recorded some of the hand seal techniques of Mokuden, wood style but also the principles of various aspects. Naruto, who was already super powerful, quickly found the key. In the past, he only knew that when he combined the two attributes of water and soil, the attribute of wood would be generated, but he still had a limited understanding of how to use these attributes of wood. At this moment, after watching some hand-seal techniques, he immediately understood. It turns out that the creation of Mokuden, wood-style, ninjutsu is very simple. Hand-seal is just a means of using chakra, and the most important thing is the chakra in one's own body. How to make those wood attribute chakras work. Hand-seal is of course a method, but these seals are left over from the first generation, and the Mokuden, wood-style, performed according to these seals is a technique imitating the first generation, and Naruto knows that in fact, there is no fixed form of ninjutsu for all kinds of attributes. Only when more people use it, the inheritance of ninjutsu will appear, and the Mokuden, wood-style, ninjutsu recorded in the Book of Seals does not make Naruto feel very powerful jutsu, so he felt that he had to create his own Mokuden, wood-style, ninjutsu system. Of course, the premise is that you must learn the original Mokuden, wood-style, ninjutsu and learn from its creativity. After thinking of it, he did it. After silently memorizing a few ninjutsu, Naruto divided more than 10 shadow clones and began to practice. Chapter 183 Self-Defeating. Mokuden, wood-style, World of Trees Wall. Dozens of Naruto clones hand-seal at the same time. Suddenly the ground around Naruto trembled, and small saplings emerged one by one. They stopped growing until they were 1 or 2 meters high. Taking a breath, Naruto sighed. It doesn't seem to work. It takes more practice. Mokuden, wood-style, World of Trees Wall. After practicing again and again, the practice field became a sea of trees in a short time, and the lush foliage made the three of Hinata Seijutsu Yugao, who were watching, stunned. No, am I right? This is Mokuden, wood-style. The 3 girls who saw Naruto using Mokuden, wood-style, for the first time were shocked. Naruto, how do you know Mokuden, wood-style? This is a secret technique unique to Shodai, first, Sama. Hinata couldn't help but curiously ask Shadow Clone beside him. Shadow Clone smiled and told her that he suddenly learned Mokuden, wood-style. However, the water attribute, the earth attribute nature transformation, and the fusion of the two nature transformations are too profound for someone from a family of taijutsu to understand. On the other side, Zuoyu was even more excited. Naruto's power finally revealed the tip of the iceberg, but the power exposed was too shocking. For her, this was a big problem. So powerful, how can Naruto beat him? But if you don't beat him, you won't get him, and you will never be reconciled. Naruto continued to train. He knew that he would definitely become the focus of the public after exposing Mokuden, wood-style, but he was not afraid of being known. For him, the exposure of Mokuden, wood-style, was inevitable. It can also be a shock and a warning to those who are ill-intentioned. Time was spent in the training of Tenten. After a few days, Naruto finally got acquainted with Mokuden, wood-style, and understood several Mokuden, wood-style, ninjutsu lessons on the Book of Seals. In the development stage, research the Mokuden, wood-style, ninjutsu that suits you. Watching the wooden block sticking out from his palm change for a while, a small sapling for a while, a spike for a while, and then a tree stump at the same time, Naruto had a lot of fun, and it was also in the process. In the fine experience of Mokuden, wood-style, mystery. In the past few days, his control of the wood attribute has made great progress, and now even without hand seal, he can stretch out Mokuden, wood-style, from his hand by condensing chakra. Today is a very special day, because Daimyo of the Land of Fire has arrived at Konoha village in the morning, and his personal visit means the birth of the 6th Hokage. However, this meeting was held in the afternoon, because due to travel fatigue, Daimyo had to rest in the morning. Naruto didn't go to training anymore, and dragged Shiro around the street casually, naturally following Yugao and Zuoyu in the dark place beside him. And the news about Mokuden, wood-style, has spread to every corner of Konoha village a day ago. Almost all ninjas in the village already know the fact that Naruto will be Mokuden, wood-style, which makes many people's hearts excited. Is Konoha about to rise? In contrast, Danzo is very depressed. In the dark room, Danzo looked at his right hand uncertainly, and murmured, Uzumaki Naruto actually learned Mokuten, wood style. What is his identity? Using Mokuten, wood style, ninjutsu, this guy is. Quote. Left hand touched his right eye lightly, and a grim smile appeared on the corner of Danzo's mouth. No matter how powerful you are, the position of Hokage will never be handed over to you. As a single Jinchuriki column force, it should be used as a weapon of war obediently. In fact, Naruto had already thought about whether Danzo's people would secretly attack him, or would they kill him before the meeting was held. Therefore, he has been secretly vigilant. With his ability to perceive good and evil, if someone from Danzo really wants to attack him, he will never succeed if he is vigilant. Strangely enough, the hostile faction did not change anything. After strolling until the afternoon, Naruto and Shiro, who had already eaten, were finally notified by Anbu. It's still a conference room. Tsunade, who was sitting side by side in the top position, Danzo and Naruto, who were on both sides, the next two advisors, then the patriarchs of the major Konoha families, and the elders. Some of the other elite Jonins did not participate this time. Facing this group of old stubborn, Naruto was very relaxed. Because he knew that the guys present seemed serious and meticulous, but in fact they were very greedy for life and fear of death. Except for the family patriarch, the elders in high positions were almost the same. And the famous name of the country of fire, Naruto didn't want to complain about him. He had a bitter face, impotence, and looked like he was in his 50s. He always held a fan in his hand like a sissy. In addition, the towering piece behind the head was decorated as big as a screen, and Naruto looked at it with the urge to beat someone. However, he is also a famous name in the country of fire, but looking at the respective Konoha and other high-level officials on the surface, he knows that what he said is definitely a response. Naruto didn't know the stakes between the country of fire and Konoha village, and he didn't have any reverence for daimyo or the like. After Tsunade's opening few sentences, everyone got into an argument. Naruto and Danzo were sitting there, listening to the discussions. Was a faint smile on Naruto's mouth, Danzo's face was expressionless, and a cold light flickered in his eyes. It still revolves around Naruto's bad deeds. People from Danzo's faction criticized his behavior, while people from Hokage's faction defended it one after another, and neither side allowed the other. Therefore, everyone finally handed over the decision to the daimyo. At this time, Naruto saw a sneer at the corner of Danzo's mouth, and he also smiled lightly. Mr. Daimyo, please allow me to say a word. Although there are many supporters of Uzumaki Naruto as the 6th generation Hokage, there is one thing that I don't think is right, that is, his age is too young and his qualifications are not enough. Mr. Daimyo, are you right? Danzo lowered his head slightly, supporting the white bandage-wrapped eye on his arm, and looked at Daimyo through the gap in his palm. At this moment, Naruto suddenly noticed a wave of chakra on Danzo's body. He frowned, knowing it in his heart, sneered secretly, his arm suddenly moved, and a gust of wind suddenly emerged in the field. At this moment, a guard samurai behind the daimyo suddenly fell into the daimyo's arms unsteadily, blocking Danzo's line of sight to Dang's eyes, and unfortunately, the guard's eyes, at this moment right on Danzo. The art of Koto Amatsukami. Oops. It was too late to take back the technique that Danzo had just launched, and the guard was immediately endured by the guard. The guard paused slightly, and suddenly said, I agree with what Elder Danzo said, remove the identity of Uzumaki Naruto's 6th generation Hokage heir. Everyone in the conference room was taken aback by this sudden scene, and Chi-Chi looked at the guard. Chapter 184 Ghost Country Drama. The guard was simply speechless. At this time, even he didn't know why he said such a sentence, as if he wanted to say it subconsciously. Just now, he only felt a gust of wind blowing, but just as he was trying to stabilize his body, he felt that he was being pulled into Daimyo's arms by a subtle force. Naruto was the one who made the moves in secret. He had long expected that Danzo was going to use Koto Amatsukami on the daimyo, so he used futon wind style to condense a rope-like pulling force to pull the guard who was too late to prepare for it. Scapegoat. What's going on? Daimyo asked the guard in a panic. What did you just say? At this time, the guard faced the scrutiny of the people around him, and he didn't know how to explain it at all, so he could only bow his head and say nothing. However, although the people present were puzzled, there were also a few shrewd guys who saw some clues. The abnormal performance of the guards was too suspicious. Could it be that someone is secretly making trouble? However, even if they were shrewd, they didn't know that at this moment, Naruto and Danzo had already clashed once, but Danzo lost a chance to use Koto Amatsukami and lost. In this way, the daimyo's mind is no longer under Danzo's control, and the meeting becomes a true struggle of strength. Naruto smiled and looked at Danzo's gloomy face. He found that the faint light in Danzo's eyes at this time was full of murderous intent. However, Naruto is not afraid at all. Danzo and the like are like jumping clowns to him, and they really don't pose much threat. After this little episode, the meeting continued, but after arguing for a long time, no conclusion could be reached. Just when daimyo's eyes were hesitating between Naruto and Danzo, an Anbu suddenly rushed in from the sidelines. My lord, I'm sorry to disturb you. Report an emergency. The ninja rushed directly to Tsunade and handed Tsunade a document. Tsunade stood up immediately, took it over and opened it, frowning even tighter. Naruto stepped forward to take a look, and was startled. Land of Ghosts request for help. I'm sorry everyone, I'm afraid this meeting will be temporarily suspended. I just received a quick report that the monster in the seal of the country of ghosts has resurrected. Now I'm trying to kill the witch and destroy the world. Tsunade said with a serious look. What? Everyone was shocked. The fan in daimyo's hand couldn't help but tremble, and he said in a voiceless voice, this is terrible. The monster is said to be a monster that was about to destroy the world. In today's world, only the power of the priestess can seal it, but it cannot be sealed. Destroy him completely. Tsunade nodded and said solemnly, the safety of the witch is very important now, but it is said that the witch is about to be resurrected. They will definitely attack the witch now, we must stop them as soon as possible. Naruto, I have a mission for you. Tsunade yelled. Naruto nodded. Let everyone go to the country of ghosts now, and protect the witch to successfully complete the seal. She ordered decisively. After she finished speaking, she looked around at everyone. I think this is just the right way to consider Naruto's ability. If this task is successfully completed, there will be no objection to the position of Hokage. What do you think? Everyone looked at each other, and the big name suddenly clapped his hands and shouted, not bad, this is a good idea. If you want to become a Hokage, excellent ability is essential. I support the decision of the 5th generation. The big names have spoken, and the others around them immediately followed the trend and praised them for their kindness. Only the people from the Danzo faction looked ugly and didn't know what they were thinking. However, without Koto Amatsukami's demonic illusion, Danzo couldn't get any chance at all. At this time, he knew that he couldn't be stronger, so he had to keep silent. In this way, everyone who had agreed to disperse one after another. Because Naruto got the task of Tsunade, it was not too late, so he immediately went to prepare to set off. Danzo and the others also slowly left here. After the meeting, Naruto went to call Shiro, and some elite ninjas in the village at the moment, together with Kakashi, Gai, Asuma, Yuhi, and the 12 little powers, all moved. The mission this time is to escort the Shrine Maiden to the shrine in the country of Swamp, and use the unique power of the Shrine Maiden to seal the body of the Sphinx. The road is definitely dangerous. The crowd was at full speed, and it took most of a day to quickly leave the country of fire and come to the country of ghosts. It was already night, and Naruto and the others in the land of ghosts encountered obstacles within a few steps. It was a group of terracotta warriors and horses carved out of stone, each holding a giant axe or a large sword, and their footsteps were so powerful that they marched towards the place where the witch of the land of ghosts is located. When Naruto and the others met them, they found that the army of the Kingdom of Ghosts was struggling to resist these terracotta warriors. But in front of these stones, the manpower of the army would not be able to do any damage at all, and the bows and arrows attacking from a long distance could not even pierce the surface of the stone statues. Therefore, under the invincible pace of the terracotta warriors, Naruto and others only saw the scene of the human army being defeated. Looking at the army of stone statues in the valley that was about to attack the highlands, the commander of the Ghost Country army trembled and exclaimed, "Too strong. These things are simply impossible for humans to deal with." A soldier beside him heard what his leader said, and immediately lost his momentum. Looking at the terracotta warriors and horses who did not slow down under the frenzied attack of his own side, he finally couldn't restrain his fear and shouted at then escaped. "Bastard! Fleeing man, kill him for me." The commander was furious when he saw this, and slashed his sword to kill him. Whoever dares to escape, this is an example. On the battlefield, the wind was howling, and the flames on the torches kept jumping in the dark night, but under these flames, all the human corpses fell. This is an unfair duel, and human beings can only allow these terracotta warriors to ravage. Seeing this tragic scene, Naruto frowned deeply. For him, the army of these stone statues can't cause him any harm, but the soldiers of the Ghost Country army are ordinary people, and most of them can't compete with these stones, watching groups of people fall down in front of them. Naruto's face sinks like water. "Kakashi, it looks like we're going to show off our skills." Guy shouted to Kakashi beside him. Kakashi lifted his forehead, revealing Yuhi's Sharingan. "Yeah, but there are so many." "Enough. Don't be afraid, these are just some puppets." Guy's blood burned, and he shouted confidently, "Come with me." "Yes." By Guy's passion rushed towards the terracotta warriors. In an instant, only Shiro, Yugao, and Zuoyu were left beside Naruto. Chapter 185 Miko Shion. The addition of the Konoha ninja changed the situation on the battlefield. The power of the ninja should not be underestimated. The terracotta warriors and horses were blocked by the attacks of Kakashi, Guy and other Shaoqiangs. Sakura, who has tyrannical strength, has shown the limelight. Every punch she hits will crack the earth, and the terracotta warriors will fall into the pit in groups. Kakashi's thunderbolt is also a weapon against these stone statues, and the terracotta warriors and horses shattered everywhere they passed. The others also showed their strengths, which greatly inspired the soldiers of the Ghost Country army. "The support of the ninjas is here. Destroy them now," the commander shouted, waving the spear in his hand and dashing forward. For a time, the scene was chaotic, the sound of fighting, explosions, and the fog of war pervaded all around, showing infinite murder in this night. However, people's physical strength is limited after all. After the ninjas made Kamui, they were surrounded by an endless army of terracotta warriors. Naruto saw that everyone's situation became dangerous again, and he immediately began to act. With a jump, he jumped into the battlefield. When he was in the air, he made a few seals on his hands, and then suddenly folded. Immediately, a surging chakra fluctuation emanated from him, and everyone present was shocked, and all looked at Naruto. The next moment, Naruto opened his mouth and shouted, "Mokuden wood style, the sea of trees is coming." Boom boom boom. Suddenly, the surrounding ground shattered, and with Naruto as the center, towering trees rose from the ground within 100 meters. In a few breaths, the entire venue was completely covered by dense trees. Occupied. Those terracotta warriors were actually entangled by the branches of these trees, and then hung in the air, unable to focus at all. Everyone stepped back one after another, looking at the sea of trees at the moment. Their faces were full of amazement. What a great Mokuden wood style. Kakashi looked at Naruto. Guy also felt a surge of blood and passion in his heart. However, Naruto's ninjutsu is not over yet. He continues to output chakra. The trees in the venue that have stopped growing frantically again, and countless tree trunks are derived from the ground at the root. Once again doubled the attack range. In the eyes of everyone, there is a dark forest, which looks extremely deep under the night. Naruto stood up slowly, closed his eyes and let out a slight sigh. This was the first time he had used all his strength to perform this Mokudan, wood-style, ninjutsu. Seeing that the effect was barely satisfactory, if he was more proficient, he should be able to do better. At this time, the soldiers of the Ghost Kingdom army who were standing behind Naruto saw this scene, their mouths widened and their mouths stunned. This person actually stopped these puppet troops that ordinary people could not compete with. This is incredible. Naruto saw that these puppet troops could not go any further for the time being, and kept running towards the place where the Witch of the Land of Ghosts was. Kakashi and others stayed here and continued to guard against these puppet troops. With Naruto's suppression just now, it is much easier for them to deal with the puppet troops. As long as they persist until dawn, these puppets will no longer act. A heavily guarded compound in the Land of Ghosts. In the room, a girl with a delicate face and a light yellow shawl was sitting motionless on the bed. She was the witch Shion. Outside the house, the rows of guards with knives patrolled in an AWE-inspiring and orderly manner, with a solemn atmosphere. Just then, a samurai entered the house and respectfully reported to the girl. Lord Miko, the sprite has broken through the seal. Now the puppet army is about to break through the front line, and it will come here soon. You should leave here quickly. The samurai urged sincerely. Ziyuan looked at him lightly, and suddenly said, You will die, hurry up and leave. The warrior's body trembled, and his pupils shrank suddenly. Is this a prophecy? He looked at Shion with a look of fear on his face. Just when he was hesitating whether to escape from here, the door banged with a bang, and the next moment, 4 strange figures rushed in from the door. The samurai turned around immediately. The samurai sword in his hand was unsheathed, and he blocked his body in front of Shion and shouted sharply, Who? Kai. However, before he could finish his words, a handful of kunai had already shot through his throat, and the 4 figures had stepped on his corpse and approached the panic-stricken witch. They are Huang Izumi's 4 subordinates, and since the sprite broke through the seal, they have also been resurrected again. Hey, it turns out that our sorceress is here. As long as I kill you, the Sphinx-sama won't have to worry anymore. The tall Wei Tianjing said with a smile. Kill her. Another figure instantly raised the kuwu in his hand and stabbed towards Ziyuan's neck. The shrine maiden, who had no strength to tie the chicken with her hands, watched the lightning-quick kunai fall to her neck. At this moment, a dim light suddenly flashed in the room. The next moment, there was a crisp ding, and another strange kunai that flew out of nowhere slammed into this kunai. The moment of Kuwu was suddenly knocked out by a force, and his face was full of surprise. However, before the surprised look in his eyes dissipated, a faint golden light suddenly appeared in front of him. Rasengan. In the next instant, a blue light flashed from the room, and the abdomen was hit hard in that instant. The person here is Naruto. At a critical moment, he finally caught up with the technique of Hiraishin. And he directly blasted Moment out with Rasengan. The other 3 were shocked. Shion hasn't reacted at all. It wasn't until her body was blasted out of the room that she finally realized that she was saved. The appearance of Naruto brought an extremely heavy pressure to the 4 of them, and just now they didn't even know where he appeared, and they couldn't see the trajectory when he appeared. Who are you? Wei Tianjing said coldly. Those who dare to obstruct our way of conquering the world will be killed without mercy. Naruto laughed when he heard the words. What a bunch of arrogant guys. I think you should hurry back to hell. With a swoosh, Naruto's figure disappeared again, and the pupils of the 3 suddenly shrank. Small. Boom. Wei Tianjing just noticed Naruto's whereabouts, but it was too late when he wanted to remind his companions. Naruto's Rasengan had already smashed the man's waist and blasted him out. With a loud bang, the man's body smashed a wall and flew out. Ziyuan was taken aback by this elusive speed. Her eyes couldn't keep up with Naruto's speed at all. She wanted to see Naruto's figure clearly, but he disappeared in a flash. Compared with Ziyuan's surprise, Wei Tianjing and the others were completely at a loss. At this speed, he couldn't even feel the shadow of others, and he didn't even know how his own people died. It was such an inexplicable defeat. It was unbelievable for them. How to fight this? Chapter 186 Stubborn 2. The next moment, they decisively decided to retreat. Released a ninjutsu in Xian's direction, hand seal. Futon, wind style, Shen Lan. In an instant, there was a gust of wind in the room, and it suddenly attacked Xian, who was sitting on the bed. Xian's face was pale with fright, and she didn't make any movement. Naruto looked at him and shook his head slightly. The next moment he had no choice but to give up the idea of attacking. He quickly flashed in front of her, with an arm and a circular spiral protective wall with a diameter of more than 2 meters. All the gusts of wind returned to calm after hitting the spiral air wall, and Xian, who was behind the spiral wall, stared blankly at Naruto's back with wide eyes. The wind was calm. Naruto had long known that they had retreated. Shaking his head, he didn't care, these guys were just small ones, and what really made him care about was the big guy. Turning back and meeting those eyes that were staring at him, Naruto showed a big smile. Mikasama, are you alright? But when Ziwan saw Naruto, she was suddenly shocked. The next moment, she suddenly called out, "You go. Let me go. The farther you go, the better." Huh, what's wrong with you? Naruto was startled by her reaction, and hurriedly leaned over and asked. However, Ziyuan didn't know where the strength came from, and pushed her hands over, but instead of pushing Naruto away, she fell on the bed with her buttocks. She lay quietly on her back on the bed, her pale yellow hair scattered all around, and whispered in her mouth, "You're going to die, you're going to die, but I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die." Naruto heard something from her intermittent words, frowned and asked, "Are you saying I'm going to die?" Hearing Naruto's question, Xian's face was terrified, as if she saw something terrifying in front of her, and she couldn't help but shiver. At this moment, the guards who came from outside the door finally arrived. "Mikasama, are you all right?" Naruto glanced back at them. "She's fine, the enemy just now has run away, you don't need to worry." Turning back, he said to Xian again, "Lord Miko, let's get out of here first, I'll take you to seal the Sphinx now." Saying that, he didn't care whether Ziyuan was ready or not, he carried her behind his back and leapt out of the room. Ziyuan was suddenly carried behind his back, and then he came back to his senses and called out, "Where are you taking me?" "Go and seal the sprites." Naruto was eager to deal with sprites now, so he pulled Xian directly and rushed all the way to the ancestral hall of the swamp country. "It's useless. My current strength can no longer deal with sprites, and you will die too." Xian shouted on his back. "How can it be useless?" Naruto retorted. "Trust me, as long as you have the power of a witch, I will definitely be able to defeat that guy." Yugao Seijutsu, who were already waiting outside, saw Naruto carrying a girl out, and immediately surrounded him. "Is she the Mikasama?" Yugao asked. Naruto nodded and said directly, "It's too chaotic here, let's move to another place to talk about it." Bai nodded, so the four brought Xian to another compound. After putting Xian down, a few people made some adjustments, and Naruto was planning to take Xian to the land of swamps immediately. However, due to a series of things that Ziwan has experienced during this period, her mind and body are already very tired. After several people introduced themselves, Ziwan said directly, "I'm tired and I'm going to rest." Naruto frowned and asked, "The army of sprites is advancing continuously. So many people died on the battlefield, are you still in the mood to rest?" Xian glanced at him, and frowned as well, a complex color flashed in her eyes, but she didn't answer. The close official next to her, Suke, hurriedly stood up and explained, "Naruto, don't blame the sorceress she if you don't have a good rest, the power of the seal will not be able to exert itself, and I'm afraid it will be more troublesome." Hearing this, Naruto sat down helplessly and let Xian go back to rest. Then he discussed with Bai and the others for a while, and went back to his room to rest. That night, there was no moon, the sky was gloomy and dark, only the candles in each room flickered slightly. Chien was lying on the bed, but she couldn't sleep, tossing and turning, and Naruto's face kept flashing in her mind. Naruto, why don't you leave? Do you know, if you don't leave, you will die. You will die for saving me. Chien murmured, gradually falling into sleep. In the dream, she saw a picture again. It was Naruto standing in front of her, a long knife pierced through her chest, and he was still smiling and looking at her as the blood sprayed. She clearly felt the incomparable pain in her heart when she saw him die. She didn't know why this feeling arose, but she only knew that at that moment, she wished she was the one who died. Early morning. The sun was still shining, and the tension that seemed to be the end of the world yesterday was completely gone. Naruto got up early and knocked on Chien's door. Ziyuan had already woken up, dressed everything, opened the door and walked out. In the hall, Shiro, Yugao, Zuo-Yu, and Ashi were all waiting for the two of them to come. The crowd hurriedly ate breakfast, and Chien suddenly said to Naruto, "Today I'm going to seal the sprite alone." Naruto quickly ate the food in his hand, shook his head and said, "Mikasama, you can't reach the land of swamps alone no matter what, and I can protect your safety." Bai and Yugao also nodded. Ziwan snorted coldly and said, "You will die if you go, you know." After hearing this, Zuo-Yu stared at Chien and said, "I heard that you can foresee the death of others, so Naruto will really die." Chien nodded. "Yes, he will die." Zuo-Yu opened her mouth, and just as she was about to speak, Bai already said, "Then I'll escort you." Naruto, just stay. "I'll escort you too," Zuo-Yu called out immediately. She gave her a blank look, full of dissatisfaction. How could I lose to her? Of course Naruto knew that the two women were doing it for his own good, and seeing that Zuo-Yu, who had been silent by his side for the past 2 days, actually spoke up, a smile appeared on his face, and he waved his hand and said, "Don't either after the fight, only I am the best person to escort her, you should be clear about this." Bai thought for a moment and nodded. And Ziwan saw Naruto's stubborn appearance, and her heart was even more anxious. She didn't want him to die in vain, but this guy was so stubborn. "No, if you go, I won't go." When Ziyuan got angry, she turned around and ignored the crowd. Chapter 187 Arrive. "Lord Miko, you're not too young anymore, can you stop being so self-willed? Do you know how important it is for you to do?" Naruto stepped forward and grabbed her shoulder. After Ziwan was caught by Naruto, she couldn't help but shrank and wanted to dodge back, but Naruto's strength was too strong. She could only put her head away and not face him, but Naruto's body had the aura of the opposite sex. But it made her face Yuhi's heartbeat for a while. Embarrassed and annoyed in her heart, she pushed him away with all her strength and shouted, "You idiot! I said I already saw your death. Why do you still want to die?" Naruto smiled and didn't care. "The prophecies you mentioned are only a certain possibility in the future. If I dare not move forward because there will be some possibility of death in the future, I am afraid I will spend my whole life. There will be no progress. People are always looking forward, but if you just watch and don't experience it yourself, you will never get the feeling of success." Ziwan was stunned by Naruto's words. She stared blankly at Naruto's smiling face, and whispered softly, Why are you not afraid of death? Do you know that my prophecy never fails? Haven't been broken. What gave you so much courage?" Naruto was silent for a while. It is true that Chien's ability to predict is very accurate, and since he has been predicted, he may really die at some point in the next moment, but he never believed in such mysterious things as prophecy and fate. He only believes in his own strength. The strength is strong enough. I have the confidence to break the established destiny. It's like a knife has been stabbed in front of you. If you don't have the power to hold the chicken, you can't dodge even if you know you will be stabbed to death, but if you are quick, you can avoid the stab by yourself. To rewrite his own destiny to be stabbed. What Naruto believes in is that man will conquer the sky, rather than relying on those illusory fate theories. And this has always been the foundation of his unremitting efforts to cultivate. Thinking of this, Naruto smiled calmly. He stared directly at Ziyuan's eyes and said word by word, since you said that I would die, then I will break this rule and let you see for yourself. Looking at Naruto's confident smile, Shion was speechless at this moment. Okay, don't frown, the enemy is not so scary. Shiro, Zuiyu, Yugao, the three of you go to support Kakashi and the others now, it's enough to have me alone on Shion's side. Naruto waved his hand. Made a decision. Naruto, you must be careful. Bai nodded and stepped forward to gently tidy up his clothes with a gentle smile on his face. Zuoyu looked at it and pouted, a trace of deep envy flashed in her eyes. Naruto smiled and nodded, and carried Shion on his back on the way to the shrine of Numokuni. Along the way, Naruto rushed forward quickly. Since he did not set spatial coordinates in the country of Swamp, he must use Hiraishin to rush over now. Although there will be a lot of delay in time, Naruto believes that with his current strength, it is no longer a problem to seal the monster. Even if the Miko's power is ineffective, he has the confidence to defeat the opponent with his own power. However, although Naruto is very confident, he has not yet reached the level of mental retardation. He still has 100 vigilance in his heart. Just now he asked Ziwan that he would be pierced by a sharp blade in the prophecy. It may not be sprites that are dangerous to oneself, but other human factors. Therefore, he maintained a high degree of vigilance along the way, fully opened his perception of good and evil, and did not miss any gaps around him. Soon both of them will come to the border of the swamp country, and they will arrive at the ancestral hall in a short time. At this time, the sky was already dark, and it was already evening. Shion, who hadn't eaten for a day, screamed on Naruto's back, "I'm hungry." Naruto. Naruto had to stop. Okay, let's find a place to rest first, I'll find some food to fill my stomach. Hurry up. Shion was already growling from hunger, nodding her head to urge. Understood, miss. Naruto was speechless at her coddled temper, sighed, and walked towards the grass by a river. When she got to the river, Naruto put her down, went to the river to wash her face at will, and handed a hand seal to separate a shadow clone out, and sent him to catch some game back. He himself made a fire directly by the river to prepare for a barbecue. He was busy by himself, and suddenly saw Ziyuan sitting next to a tree silently looking at himself. He couldn't help but froze for a moment, then smiled and said, "Ziyuan, you should do something too." No, Shion snorted and hurriedly turned her head away, but her cheeks couldn't help but heat up. Naruto had no choice but to continue working alone, and Shion couldn't help but look at him secretly. She just thought that Naruto's serious work was really charming. His blonde hair seemed to glow in the setting sun. Looking at it, she couldn't help but go crazy, but then she looked complicated again. Does such a Naruto really want to sacrifice for himself? Can I really ignore it like I used to? She asked herself, but her expression became more and more struggling and painful. Suddenly, a scent came, and at the same time Naruto's voice sounded from her ears. "Ziyuan, don't be in a daze, the food is ready." Shion hurriedly turned her head, but it happened to meet Naruto's gentle blue pupils. At this moment, she only felt that her heartbeat stopped. "Naruto, Naruto," Shion called him blankly. Naruto smiled slightly, handed her a piece of roasted rabbit meat in his hand, and comforted, "Don't think too much, let's have a full meal first. No one can tell what will happen next, useless worry will it only makes people weaker, so you should eat more now, so that you can have the strength to work in the future." Hearing his comfort, Ziyuan's heart calmed down. She took the fragrant roasted meat with golden yellow oil and put it in her mouth to bite it, but she couldn't help but look at Naruto, and her delicate face couldn't help but emerge. Out of 2 Yuhi Halo. It turns out that his craftsmanship of food is so amazing. Seeing her eating with relish, Naruto was also very happy. This wayward shrine maiden was finally coaxed. He couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. After eating, the night shrouded all around. Naruto decided to go on the road again. He carried Shion towards the valley in front of him. As long as he crossed the valley, he would not be far from the ancestral hall. Next, as long as there are no obstacles, you can reach the ancestral hall there smoothly. Chapter 188 Raid. Ziwan leaned on Naruto's back, feeling a sense of security. Looking at the golden hair in front of her, she suddenly said softly, "Naruto, I won't let you die." Naruto turned back and smiled, "I won't let myself die." Seeing the dazzling smile on Naruto's face, Shien's eyes flashed with determination. Ahead is the entrance to the valley. Darkness covers everything. Naruto turned to Shien and said, "Are you ready? We're going into the valley." Shien wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck slightly and nodded. The next moment, Naruto jumped from the cliff into the valley, and inside the valley, there were hordes of terracotta warriors and horses puppets. Looking at these puppet troops, Naruto shouted, "Zion, hold tight." I saw him stretch out his hand and press down, and suddenly a Rasengan with a diameter of more than 10 meters appeared in the palm of his hand. Dazzling blue light quickly descended from midair, and a heavy aura enveloped the audience. Super Big Ball Rasengan. Naruto let out a loud cry, and when he fell, he smashed the incomparably huge Rasengan onto the heads of the hordes of terracotta warriors and horses under his feet. Rumble. The entire valley couldn't help shaking. The terracotta warriors and horses under Rasengan turned into dust at this moment, and the ground was smashed by Rasengan. Bang bang bang. The earth was torn apart by this huge spiral energy, and in an instant, the boulders on the ground surged, collapsed, shattered, and collapsed. At this moment, the huge valley seemed to be a war drum, and Naruto's Rasengan became a hammer that beat the drum, and the whole valley shook slightly. With Naruto as the center, the terracotta warriors and horses within a radius of dozens of meters were all blown away and shattered by the dancing energy. When did Shien, who was on Naruto's back, see such a huge power? Even if she stayed on Naruto's back, she was almost blown away by the gust of wind. She could only hug Naruto's neck tightly, bury her head on his shoulder and ignore everything around her. When the surroundings were calm, Naruto stood proudly on the spot with Shien on his back. All the terracotta warriors and horses within dozens of meters around him fell into a huge pit, which was naturally made by Rasengan. Naruto looked around indifferently, his hands clasped together an abruptly hand seal. He was about to use a Mokuden, wood-style technique to temporarily control the terracotta warriors in the valley. But at this moment, Naruto's body suddenly flashed to the left, and the next moment, countless dim lights fell from the air and shot straight at him. Naruto's face was slightly startled, and before he had time to look up at the situation in midair, countless kunai hidden weapons suddenly fell in midair. Sneak attack. Naruto scolded secretly, with Shien's figure flashing in exclamation and panic. After avoiding a rain of hidden weapons, he finally had time to look at the direction of the sneak attack. However, what caught the eye was a dense rain of hidden weapons. The many hidden weapons were like a group of locusts passing through the country, covering the sky and covering the two of Naruto, even covering half of the valley. With so many hidden weapons flying over from different angles around, Naruto's judgment is definitely not done by one person. The next moment, he hand-sealed his hands instantly, which was completed in a moment, and then slapped his palms on the ground. Doden, Earth Style, Sifang Earth Flow Wall. The sound of rumbling continued to sound, and in an instant, 4 stone walls more than 10 meters high had risen around Naruto, enclosing the two of them, leaving only a gap above. However, Naruto saw that there was still a hidden weapon flying in from the only opening, and he quickly added a wall of soil flow to directly seal the gap above. The surroundings fell into darkness in an instant. Shien's arms that held Naruto tightly began to tremble. She was a little scared, as if the two of them were trapped in a desperate situation and could not escape. Naruto noticed Shien's fear. He patted her hands lightly, and comforted her softly. "Ziwan, don't be afraid, nothing will happen with me." Pause, he sneered and murmured, "At this time, it's really enough to attack me." Danzo. With that keen perception, Naruto had already sensed the enemies all over the valley at this time. Those were all ninjas at the root. Dozens or hundreds of people surrounded the entire valley at this moment. "Naruto, what should we do? What the hell happened just now? Was it a sprite's attack?" Shion hugged Naruto tightly, her tone extremely worried. It's not a sphinx, it seems that my enemy is attacking me. But, I just took this opportunity to kill him, Naruto said, and reached out and took out a special Hiraishin kunai and held it in his hand. Then crouched down, holding Hiraishin kunai's hand and slammed into the ground. Chakra condensed on the arm, Mokuden wood style issued. After a while, he withdrew his hand, and the kunai in his hand was gone. Ziyuan, you can stay here at ease now, okay? Naruto suddenly put down Ziyuan, turned to look at her and said. Naruto could still see her figure clearly in the darkness, but Ziyuan couldn't. The fear of being in the dark made her not dare to leave Naruto's side for half a step. As soon as her body left Naruto, her arms suddenly grabbed Naruto's clothes. Don't go. Seeing her frightened look, Naruto had to separate out a shadow clone. Actually, it's still safe for you to stay here. These stone walls can't be breached for a while. I'm going to deal with some trouble now, bring you are a little inconvenient, so you can stay here for the time being, and my clone will protect your well-being during this period. Quote. Shion reached out and grabbed the avatar's clothes, and then slowly let go of Naruto. Seeing that she finally agreed, Naruto nodded, and the next moment the figure disappeared in place. Naruto, are you still there? Shion asked. Clone said, the main body has gone out and will be back soon. Oh, be sure to hurry up, Shion murmured, clutching the avatar's clothes tightly. After disappearing, Naruto appeared on the edge of the four-sided earth wall in the next moment, and there was a flying thunder snake kunai emerging from the ground. It turned out that he used Mokuden wood style as a rhizome to bring Hiraishin kunai to the outside of the earth flow wall, and then used the technique of Hiraishin to teleport out. Hiraishin markers around the valley beforehand, he wouldn't have had to bother. At this time, after Naruto came out, he saw dozens or hundreds of figures leaping down from the cliff above the valley. Each of them was dressed in black ninja suits, with animal masks on their faces, and all kinds of sharp weapons in their hands, and they descended from the sky with murderous aura. Seeing these guys appear, Naruto's mouth curled into a sneer. The next moment, he suddenly rushed up the Tuliu wall, then stepped on the top of the top and jumped high, with a total of 8 kunai in his hands, facing in all directions. Scatter out. Chapter 189 Insidious Danzo. When he was in the air, he was immediately discovered by the ninjas who jumped down around him, but at this time they had no time to be surprised, because Naruto's hands had quickly completed a seal. Kunai Shadow Clone Technique. Swish swish. Hiraishin kunai was instantly divided into 2, 2 divided into 4, 4 divided into 8, and instantly turned into hundreds of hands and flew towards those figures who fell in the air. Under Naruto's research, his Hiraishin technique can be used in combination with kunai shadow clone, so there is no need to worry about not enough time to describe the technique or not so much time to spill the coordinates. And the Anbu's hadn't noticed Naruto's intentions, or some people were only shocked when they saw the style of Hiraishin kunai, but when they waved their hands subconsciously, Naruto made a cohesion with one hand. Chakra's action, Hiraishin's art has been activated. There is no sign, no sound, and no trajectory. The next moment, Naruto's figure seemed to turn into hundreds of golden lights, suddenly appearing in front of those Anbu. In a second, the golden light flashed, and Naruto stood on the top of the Tuliu wall. Bang bang bang. Dozens of figures suddenly fell down in midair, smashing to the ground with a dull sound, and then there was no sound. Spike. An instant, a Hiraishin technique came down, and most of the ninjas who jumped from the air had already gone, and there were only a dozen or so figures left around to land safely. These people didn't dodge Naruto's Hiraishin, but chose to avoid rather than block when kunai came flying. It can be said that these people's choices are wise and lucky. But next, they will suffer even greater fears. Because the instant withering of countless companions brought them the greatest visual impact. With such a method of killing, 3 words came to their minds almost at the same time. Hiraishin. How could this be? He actually knows the Hiraishin technique. The surviving Anbu looked up at Naruto's figure with fear in his eyes. Even if they regret it now, it is too late. So many companions have died, and this task has not been completed. If they and others escape like this, the end will definitely be more miserable than these companions. Naruto felt the determination to kill these people, looked around and smiled faintly. Let your Danzo come out, and I can surround you without dying. The Anbu looked at each other, and the next moment they all rushed towards Naruto. The corner of Naruto's mouth twitched slightly, revealing a clear smile. Sure enough, these guys won't give in easily. I don't know what it would be like to kill all of you and make Danzo a bear commander. Hearing Naruto's words, the Anbu knew that he was going to kill them all, and they couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Despite Naruto's young age, he was extremely cold to the enemy in his heart. In fact, Naruto is not as ruthless as they think, but he has long known that these root troops belonging to Danzo have been brainwashed, and they all have the spells cast by Danzo on their bodies. Once they betray or reveal secrets, they will definitely die without a corpse. Therefore, instead of letting these people continue to serve Danzo and endanger themselves, it is better to completely eradicate the tumor of the Danzo root force. As for what will happen to Konoha without roots, he doesn't care. Even if he has no roots, he is still confident that he can manage Konoha well. Holding kunai in his hand, Naruto also rushed out. Facing the siege of more than 10 people, he was not afraid at all. In terms of physical skills, although these Anbu are all elite, they have not yet reached the level of shadows. For Naruto, defeating them is only a matter of time. On the edge of the cliff around the valley, several figures appeared there. The leader was leaning on a cane, and half of his body was wrapped in white bandages. He was Danzo. At this moment, his face was full of shock. The scene just now completely exceeded his expectations. He didn't expect Naruto to kill nearly 100 of his own elites in an instant with the technique of Hiraishin. Damn, this guy is really a monster. Danzo scolded, and waved his hand quickly. Let's retreat. Lord Danzo, did we just give up? Asked a close friend next to him. Danzo narrowed his eyes and said gloomily, this kid has already mastered the Hiraishin technique, and looking at his situation just now, it seems that he has already mastered the 4th generation of this technique. Perhaps his current time and space ninjutsu has surpassed 4 generations. Let's retreat, there must be no chaos now. Yes. Several people turned back and left. At this moment, several figures suddenly came running from not far away. Danzo waved his hand, and immediately led his subordinates to hide. Whoosh whoosh. Those figures appeared on the edge of the cliff, the first person holding a huge fan, wearing a gray and white short skirt over black mesh underwear, a long yellow hair tied in 2 balls behind his head, his face full of serene and serious expression. It's Temari. He was accompanied by the support troops brought by Sand Ninja Village. For this spooky incident, Sand Ninja Village also sent ninjas to support him, but compared to Konoha, their speed was slower, until now. Just came. Temari looked down from the cliff and saw Naruto surrounded by a group of black-clothed Anbu. His face couldn't help but be shocked, and his body was shocked and exclaimed, Naruto. But at this moment, Temari just wanted to go down to help Naruto when Danzo and several guards who had been hiding around launched a sneak attack on her. Who is it? Temari is also very vigilant. After hearing the change, she turned around immediately, and patted the fan in her hand, but a figure flashed in front of her, and the next moment, the movement appeared extremely fast behind her. Due to being attacked, Temari fell into Danzo's hands unprepared. Little girl, don't move. Danzo held the samurai sword on Temari's neck, and an old, low voice came from behind her. Who are you? Why did you sneak up on me? Temari asked with a calm expression as he stopped the surrounding comrades who wanted to rush up to rescue him. Danzo laughed twice and said with admiration, as expected of the daughter of Kazekage from Sand Ninja Village, she is not in trouble, and she is indeed qualified to be our Konoha's marriage partner. Who the hell are you? Temari couldn't help shaking when he heard the word, marriage, and immediately thought of Naruto's figure in his mind. Naruto was in the valley at this moment. Was he going to see him? But how should I face him? However, before she could think about it, Danzo shouted coldly, "Uzumaki Naruto, let's capture it. Your future wife is in my hands." Chapter 190 Miko's Power. Naruto couldn't help being startled, and his eyes couldn't help looking up the cliff, just in time to see the scene where Temari was restrained by Danzo. The next moment, he swept away a few anbu in front of him with a swipe, and his hands instantly hand-seal. Mokuden wood-style clone technique. Mokuden wood-style clones made by Naruto with a lot of chakra. They were stronger and stronger than Shadow Clone, as long as they weren't hit. The key point is that basically it will not disappear, but he is not very skilled at the moment. Even so, the strength of these two clones is not something that these anbu can compete with. After leaving the clone, Naruto quickly threw a Hiraishin kunai over the cliff. Danzo didn't send anyone to stop him, watching that Kuu fell to the ground in front of him. In the next instant, a golden light flashed, and Naruto appeared in front of Danzo, looking at him coldly. "Let her go." Danzo smiled slightly, ignoring his words, but ordered directly, "Make your clones stop." Naruto frowned and made a seal. The clones who were fighting with the anbu in the valley instantly turned into a wooden man and fell to the ground. Danzo gave a satisfied smile. "Naruto, you can't listen to him. Hurry up and kill him." Temari suddenly screamed. "Huh, do you want to die?" Danzo's sharp blade moved, and immediately drew a blood mark on Temari's white neck, and a trace of blood flowed down slowly. Naruto couldn't help but feel anxious. His face was full of anger, but he tried his best to keep his mind calm. Temari did not give in, and confronted each other. "If you have the kind of thing, you can do it. What's the use of me to blackmail Naruto?" Danzo smiled coldly, ignored her, and turned to Naruto and said indifferently, "If you want to save her, you have to do as I say." "Come on," Naruto said coldly. Now that Temari is in his hands, he must not act rashly. Usually in such a situation, as long as he can find a gap, he can rescue Temari. Danzo seemed happy to see Naruto being held hostage by success. Haha laughed. "Uzumaki Naruto, you still want to be a Hokage like you are. It's just a daughter. It's something that you can sacrifice at will for the purpose, and you don't even have such a consciousness. It's too bad." Naruto's face sinks like water. Temari looked at Naruto's figure. His expression was full of guilt and struggle, and Naruto, who was killed because of his appearance, was threatened by him. "No, I can't kill Naruto." The next moment, Temari ignored the sharp blade on his neck and shoved his elbow back sharply. This move was to fight Danzo desperately. And Danzo didn't expect that Temari would be so violent that he could resist himself regardless of his own life. However, Temari's physical skills really have no advantage in the eyes of old fritters like Danzo. Danzo just raised his hand a little, and he has blocked Temari's elbow. "Since you want to die so much, I'll do it for you." Danzo slammed Temari's back with a punch, and Temari vomited blood and fell forward with the powerful force. However, the sharp blade in Danzo's hand stayed by Temari's side for a moment, and at this moment, it stabbed directly at her shoulder, trying to stab her to the ground with the knife. At this moment, Naruto instantly saw through Danzo's actions and understood his motives. "Here's your chance." His arm suddenly swung hard, and Hiraishin suddenly turned into a streamer and flew towards the sharp blade in Danzo's hand. Danzo had been paying attention to Naruto's movements for a long time, and a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth when he saw this. When the kunai came under the sharp blade, Naruto's figure disappeared. At this moment, whether it is the ninja of Sand Ninja Village or Anbu of Danzo's roots, they are all focused on the movements of the two. They know that Hiraishin's speed is unmatched, but they also know that Danzo won't show his flaws so easily. It must have been premeditated. This is indeed the case. Danzo knew that no matter how much power he invested, it would definitely be harder to kill Naruto who possessed Hiraishin's technique, but he knew that Naruto's life gate was this woman named Temari. He is sure that if this woman's life is in danger, Naruto will never let it go. However, he also understands that Naruto's character will never really obey his orders, so he deliberately sold him a flaw in order to wait for the moment when Naruto uses Hiraishin. The smile on Danzo's mouth gradually opened. He was waiting for the moment when Naruto appeared under his knife. Swish! Sure enough, the golden light flashed in an instant. A strong futon wind-style chakra suddenly burst out from Danzo's knife. Naruto's body was almost touching the ground, and he reached out and grabbed Temari, who was about to fall to the ground, into his arms. But at this time, his back was just exposed to Danzo's knife. No! Temari's pupils shrank suddenly, and she was facing up to the sky just in time to see Naruto hugging her, but the sharp blade on her back was about to pass through her chest. Danzo's eyes already showed excitement. He seemed to see Naruto's blood splattered on the spot. Suddenly, just when the tip of the knife was about to touch Naruto's body emitted a soft faint purple light. The next moment, Danzo only felt that his weapon had touched a soft film, and there was a strange feeling on the knife, and he couldn't help but be in a trance. However, at this moment, Naruto's figure disappeared in front of him with Temari. The next moment, the two stood intact on the ground behind Danzo. How is this possible? Danzo exclaimed, looking down at his hands and weapons, his face full of disbelief. Naruto's face also showed a moment of surprise, but he immediately reacted and murmured, "Zion, thank you so much. Otherwise I might really have to hang up." Although he had already realized that this was a trap just now, a trap set by Danzo waiting for him to drill, but he still wanted to give it a try, whether it was his Danzo's long knife or his own Hiraishin. Fast. Perhaps, this is a fruitless conjecture, because at that time, the speed of neural reflexes and the speed of chakra operation were what determined the outcome of the two. Within the four walls of the valley, the shadow clone beside Shion had disappeared. Because Shion seemed to have foreseen the danger of Naruto just now, just when she was so anxious that she didn't know what to do, Naruto's shadow clone finally came into play. He asked Shion to use the power hidden in his body, the power of the witch that can reverse time and space, and then the clone used his own method to temporarily combine this power with his chakra, and then disbanded the shadow clone technique. Send this power back to the body in an instant. It was at this moment that Naruto of the main body was in danger, but with this force that could reverse the time and space, Danzo's attack was smoothly slowed down for a moment, so that Naruto would not be stabbed in the body. Chapter 191 Battle in the Valley. Facing Danzo's disbelief, Naruto's face showed a cold expression. After he let go of Temari, he walked slowly to him. Feeling the monstrous aura on Naruto, Danzo couldn't help but be terrified. Such a powerful aura could make him feel heavy breathing. It was terrible. At this time, Danzo's guards and the dozen or so surviving Anbu also all came to Danzo's side to protect him. Seeing that Naruto successfully rescued Temari, the ninjas in Sand Ninja Village couldn't help cheering. They stood behind Naruto and confronted Danzo and his group. Naruto waved his hand, signaling everyone not to interfere, silently approaching Danzo step by step. Go on, fight with him. Naruto couldn't bear Naruto's momentum. I don't know which Anbu shouted first, and suddenly a group of people rushed towards him. Naruto gently hand seal with both hands. The next moment, I saw countless wooden thorns suddenly burst out from the ground around him, penetrating the bodies of several of them instantly from bottom to top. Blood splashed. Naruto kept walking. Those thorns suddenly turned into towering trees. The lush branches seemed to turn into dexterous arms, and suddenly grabbed a few and jumped back in midair. Silhouette. With just one move, he attacked with anger and had already killed a small part of the enemy. The rest of the Anbu have resorted to their trump card. Kaden, fire style, head hard. Futon, wind style, wind cut. Quote. Doden, earth style, collapsing stone. Various escaping techniques shrouded Naruto in an overwhelming manner. Naruto's expression remained unchanged, and his hands condensed chakra and slammed on the ground. Suddenly, the earth couldn't help but take a step back, and the sand behind Naruto couldn't help but take a step back. Doden, earth style, big collapsing mountain. Naruto shouted softly, and the cliff in front of him suddenly roared, and the mountain collapsed, a huge crack from it, and the group of ninjas standing on the edge of the cliff immediately fell with the huge rock falling into the valley. Boom boom boom. The giant rock slammed to the ground, smashing the terracotta puppet in the valley into rubble. Danzo and the others immediately jumped up and fell into the valley and stood still. Then, Naruto once again stopped the people of Sand Ninja Village who wanted to go down, and the figure jumped straight down from the air, and at the same time formed a series of complicated seals with his hands. The moment he just landed, the seal was just finished. Boundary art, wall of breaking the sky. Naruto let out a deep drink, and a transparent barrier formed over the entire valley, just to cover the valley, including everyone from Danzo. I've set up a barrier here. Don't even think about leaving today. Naruto stared at these people coldly. He saw Danzo's ugly face, and his killing intent surged up in his heart. This old guy is really annoying, we must kill him this time. Even if he really made a lot of credit for Konoha, he must not let this guy go, and the guy who dares to threaten the people around him must not let him live. On the cliff, Temari took a step forward with the help of the ninja next to him, but he reached out and touched a transparent and firm barrier in front of him, and his face couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Naruto, do you want to deal with them alone? This is too reckless. Temari shouted towards the inside, but due to the barrier, Naruto didn't hear it. She had to sit down slumped, looking at Naruto in the barrier with a worried face. After Naruto used the enchantment technique to prevent them from escaping, he then charged towards the crowd with kunai in his hand. The Anbu knew that they had no choice but to fight back. Although their opponents were the heirs of the 6th generation Hokage, their strength was unfathomable, but they didn't want to give up, and started their own means to attack Naruto. However, no matter from which aspect they are compared, they do not have the strength of Naruto. Even if there are many people, they are still vulnerable in the face of Naruto's absolute strength. In a moment, Naruto killed several more people, and there was a trace of blood on his imperial robe, which was the blood of the enemy. He's amazing. We have to figure out a way. No, his speed is too fast, we can't find a chance at all. I can't do a group attack, let alone a single game, what should we do? The Anbu retreated while fighting, completely unable to withstand Naruto's various attacks. Shadow Clone, Rasengan, Futon, Wind Style, Doden, Earth Style, Suiten, Water Style. In front of Naruto's terrifying amount of chakra, these people have no momentum at all. His chakra seems endless. I'm almost out of chakra. The Anbu are desperate, they have never seen such a terrifying guy, even Hokage can't compete with such a strength, right? At this moment, the Anbu had retreated to the front of the terracotta warriors. A large area of these terracotta warriors' puppets had just been eliminated. At this time, the entire valley had been slowly crowded. Is really cornered. Seeing this, Naruto chased after the victory and threw several Hiraishin kunai again. Kunai Shadow Clone Technique. After a burst of golden light flashed across the sky, all Danzo's men were already lying on the ground, trampled by the terracotta warriors, their flesh and blood flying. At this time, Danzo and his 2 Yamanaka and Aburame elites, Jonin, were finally ready to take action. Because at this time, Danzo had already released the seal on his right hand during the time Naruto was fighting with the members of Gen. Uzumaki Naruto, let's have a showdown. Danzo raised his right arm, the arm with many Sharingan transplanted pointed at Naruto, and the rays of Yuhi, the gorilla, seemed to exude endless resentment. Naruto frowned, not surprised at all, but seeing such a disgusting arm, he couldn't wait to kill Danzo even more. The difference from the original is that Naruto knew the secrets of Danzo's Sharingan for a long time. He used these Sharingan to launch the forbidden technique, Izanagi, but each eye can only last for 1 minute, that is, as long as he consumes all his Sharingan can kill him. And the two guards around him have weird secret techniques, but as long as he is careful, he can definitely kill them in seconds. After thinking about the combat strategy carefully, Naruto hand-sealed with both hands and separated two Mokuden, wood-style clones. These two clones are naturally to deal with the two guards. Seeing Naruto performing the Mokuden, wood-style avatar technique, Danzo's expression changed involuntarily, but immediately he bit his fingers, hand-sealed his hands, and pressed it to the ground with a bang. Spirituality. Roar. A roar sounded, and the next moment a psychic beast as huge as a hill suddenly appeared in the valley, looking like a rhinoceros and an elephant. Danzo stood on top of it, staring coldly at Naruto. A dream taper. What a pity for such a powerful psychic beast. Naruto closed his eyes slightly and sighed. The next moment, his eyes suddenly opened, and his figure rushed forward, as fast as lightning. As if turned into a light and shadow. Super Big Ball Rasengan. Chapter 192 Fierce. The next moment Naruto appeared above the nightmare taper, and he swooped down. A chakra ball with a diameter of more than 10 meters in his palm emitted a dazzling blue light, and bombarded down at the top of the nightmare taper's head. However, at this moment, the nightmare taper suddenly raised its head towards Naruto's Rasengan, his mouth suddenly opened, and a suction suddenly came, and Naruto's Rasengan fell into the nightmare's mouth. It's useless, my dream taper can devour everything, Danzo said proudly. At the same time, the powerful suction pulled Naruto into its mouth. Naruto was also a little surprised by the nightmare taper's absorbing ability, and he was able to inhale his Rasengan. But he didn't panic at all, and his hands quickly formed fingerprints. At this time, his body had fallen to the mouth of the dream taper, and he was about to be eaten into his stomach. Danzo couldn't help frowning. He didn't believe Naruto could be sucked in so easily. Sure enough, the next moment he suddenly felt a lightness under him. It was almost a momentary scene, and when he looked down, the nightmare taper had disappeared together with Naruto. What? Danzo turned his head sharply, but was stunned to find that his psychic beast had appeared in the pile of terracotta warriors at some point. There are hundreds of meters away from yourself. Time and space ninjutsu. Danzo fell to the ground, but he could only watch as Naruto not far away aimed at his psychic beast and made an attack. Futon, wind style, Rasenshuriken. Naruto held the violently spinning chakra ball in his hand and slammed it down at the nightmare taper, who was still ignorant when it fell to the ground. The strong chakra fell on the top of nightmare taper's head. At this time, it was able to react. It raised its head to absorb Naruto's futon, wind style, Rasenshuriken, but in the end, the action was still half a beat, and the strong energy fell on it above his head. There was a violent explosion. Boom boom boom. The powerful energy Uzumaki directly surrounded the entire dream taper, and together with the ground under his feet, a huge dirt pit was forcibly reclaimed. And the terracotta warriors and horses around here have also turned into gravel powder. The power is so strong that it is astounding. After returning to his senses, there was only a huge pothole left. Naruto's figure flashed, and the next moment he appeared in front of Danzo. I have to say that your strength shocked me. Your strength is enough to be a Hokage, but you shouldn't stand in my way. So today I have to get rid of you, Danzo said coldly. Naruto chuckled. Get rid of me? Is it just the Sharingan on your arm? HMPH, don't put on a confident expression, kid, something will surprise you later. Danzo snorted coldly and launched an attack on Naruto. Quick hand seal with both hands. Futon, wind style, vacuum sphere. I saw that Danzo quickly spewed several vacuum air bombs from his mouth, lashing towards Naruto. Naruto's figure swayed slightly, and in a moment he had avoided Danzo's ninjutsu. Futon, wind style, vacuum datama. Just after Naruto avoided all the air bombs, Danzo suddenly took a breath, and the next moment a hurricane rushed out of his mouth frantically, surrounding Naruto's whole body. Trace of disdain flashed in Naruto's eyes. Danzo's futon, wind style, ninjutsu was powerful, but it was not enough to see in front of him. Just as Danzo spit out the high-pressure training empty bomb, Naruto threw a Hiraishin kunai to the side. When the huge wind bomb came to Naruto, he had already turned into a golden light and disappeared. In place, there was a loud explosion, and a sinister expression appeared on Danzo's face. Naruto didn't know why, but he suddenly realized something. He quickly looked back and saw the huge wind bomb blasting towards the earth wall on all sides. Not good. This guy actually wants to blast away the dirt wall. Shion is still inside. In the sound of rumbling, the Tuliu wall was blown open, and one side fell down. The rubble rock walls smashed towards the inside one after another, and Shion's terrified screams also sounded. Naruto. Danzo smiled contentedly. How can you do both? Naruto's face was sinking like water. He sneered. The next moment his figure turned into a golden light and disappeared, and in an instant, he appeared beside Zewan, stretched out his hands, hugged the panicked Zewan in his arms, and disappeared again in the next moment, back in front of Danzo. I can't believe that in order to protect this girl, you set spatial coordinates on him. Danzo was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Naruto hugged Shion. His face was full of anger. Danzo was so despicable. He shot at Temari before, and now he's shot at Shion. How can I endure this? Buried her head in Naruto's arms, her jade arms wrapped tightly around his waist, she heard the words and raised her head to look at Danzo. Seeing his eyes all day long, she exclaimed, Naruto, what is this? Monster. The corner of Danzo's mouth twitched, but he didn't expect to be regarded as a monster. He laughed angrily, and didn't say much. Taking advantage of the chance that Naruto was holding Shion in his arms, he rushed over with a long knife. Naruto held Shion in one hand and Kunwu in the other to resist Danzo's sword technique. Pity that Danzo's current state is not very good. The previous battle has consumed nearly half of the chakra. Relatively speaking, although Naruto's chakra consumes a lot, it is still easy to deal with Danzo. Holding Shion in his arms, he won't lose in the physical competition with Danzo. Danzo couldn't attack for a long time, and his heart became more and more frightened. He thought that he had experienced 100 battles, and he could definitely take the advantage of experience against a rookie like Naruto, but Naruto's movements did not have any flaws, and the speed was extremely fast. The movements are extremely flexible, and even with his own old-fashioned vision, he can't take advantage of it. Hiraishin kunai in Naruto's hand and Danzo's long sword. Shion sat in his arms and felt the extremely chilling fighting atmosphere at this time, but his spirit was like that. Such as the cloud. Looking at Naruto's resolute and serious face, she only felt a moment of peace in her heart. No matter how powerful the opponent was, she didn't have to worry at all. Staying in Naruto's arms, there was a feeling of safety when the sky fell. At this moment, Shion is crazy. It turns out that Naruto in battle is so handsome and charming. At this moment, Naruto suddenly forced Danzo back away, took the opportunity to let Shion lie on his back, freed up his hands and waved Hiraishin kunai, and said coldly, Danzo, I won't do anything next. We'll give you any chance of a hand seal. Quote. Kunai shadow clone technique. In an instant, countless kunai fell from the air, but the target was not Danzo, but all the ground within 100 meters of the place where the two were. Tuck tuck tuck. In a moment, the ground was completely filled with Hiraishin kunai, and the entire ground was arranged with spatial coordinates. Ziyuan, you must hold tight this time. Otherwise, I won't be able to care about you. Naruto shouted towards Ziyuan, who was on his back. Chapter 193 Destroy Danzo. Danzo looked at Hiraishin kunai who was all over the floor, and his expression changed involuntarily. At this time, Naruto's body had disappeared in front of him out of thin air, silently, without any trajectory to follow. Suddenly, there was a sound of wind coming from behind. Danzo turned around suddenly, and at the same time held the hand seal in his hand, but there was nothing in front of him, and suddenly an extremely strong sense of danger rose in his heart. Not good. He hurriedly rolled forward, and the next moment a dim light flashed, slashing Danzo's clothes with a squeak. Danzo secretly said that it was dangerous. He was about to take a breath, but suddenly he felt a pain in his waist and eyes, and blood sprayed immediately. Looking down, a bloody kunai appeared in his eyes. The art of Hiraishin. Danzo's eyes were full of unwillingness, and his body gradually fell at Naruto's feet. And Naruto stood in front of his corpse indifferently, his expression unmoved. Shion on his back was still in a dream, and he didn't recover at all. At this time, he cheered when he saw Danzo fall. "Great, Naruto, you finally killed him." Naruto shook his head. "The real trouble is still behind. Shion, hold on tight and don't let go." Soon as the voice fell, Danzo's body suddenly disappeared in front of Naruto's eyes. There was a gust of wind behind him. Naruto could feel that it was Danzo's body without looking. It doesn't work many times, and I am not strong in demonic illusion. If I deal with Danzo according to the method in the original book, I can definitely detect my demonic illusion with his demonic illusion ability, so I can only spend it with him now. But fortunately, Naruto's Chakrado is, and in the Hiraishin formation, he can be said to be omnipresent, and Danzo is now in the formation. It is really not easy to leave. The next moment, Naruto disappeared again, and Danzo flew over very fast, but in the end he only saw a light behind Naruto Hiraishin, and the next moment, a sense of danger came from behind him again. Puff! Danzo was stabbed again by Naruto's kunai and fell down. Shion sat on Naruto's back, his eyes widened. Is he immortal? How is this possible? Naruto ignored her yelling, and with a faint smile, her body disappeared again. Danzo gasped heavily. His eyes couldn't help but look at the number of Sharingan in his hand, only to find that only the last one was left yet to be closed. At this time, he also clearly felt that his chakra was not enough. His old body, the consumption of Sharingan and the fierceness of the previous battle had already left his chakra running out. Hateful. Shisui's Sharingan hasn't recovered yet, and Izanagi has only 1 minute left. This guy's speed is too fast. Even if he already knew his attack method, it was still difficult for him to escape. Are you really going to die here? Danzo thought to himself. At this moment, two bangs suddenly came from both sides of the venue, and the Yamanaka clan and the Aburame clan were finally killed by Naruto's Mokuden wood-style clone. The Mokuden wood-style clone has a large amount of Naruto's chakra, and the two have nearly half of the strength of Naruto's main body. It is not surprising that the two were killed, but after such a long battle, the two Mokuden wood-style avatars' chakra is also running out and has no effect. Naruto untied the two clones and looked at Danzo in front of him intently. Naruto, how many times does he have to be killed by you before he can be killed? Shion on her back asked curiously. After so many battles, she was no longer so afraid, but expressed her feelings for the immersive battle. Out of strong curiosity. Don't talk, I will be distracted during the battle. Naruto snorted softly. You must not be careless when dealing with him, otherwise it will be bad if you accidentally fall into his hands. HMPH, don't say it if you don't say it. Ziyuan pouted, stuck out his tongue at the back of his head and snorted softly, feeling a little angry. This guy actually scolded himself. However, seeing his focused look, Shion couldn't help but be deeply attracted by him. It turns out that looking at Naruto in battle at close range is so charming and handsome. At this time, Naruto estimated that his chakra had been consumed a lot. He almost never stopped on this journey, but the remaining chakra is enough. Danzo felt that his state was getting worse and worse, his breathing became more and more intense, and there was not much chakra left in his body, and he could hardly suppress the primary cells on his arm. Naruto once again under the technique of Hiraishin. Danzo did not dodge, because his current state is not as good as before, and he was directly stabbed in the heart by Naruto. But the next moment his body slowly dissipated again, and the real body appeared behind Naruto again. How long can you hold on? Naruto turned around and said lightly. Danzo roared. Damn, I will never give you Konoha. Konoha is mine. Naruto shook his head. He didn't want to argue with him at all, now he just wanted to solve him quickly and then deal with the sprite. He acted in an instant, under the technique of Hiraishin, Danzo was pierced in the heart again. The art of Izanagi. Danzo's real body slowly appeared, and Naruto turned to look at him. He could already feel that the breath on Danzo's body had become extremely disordered, and he could also see the expression of pain and struggle on his face. It seems that it is unstoppable. Heartbroken. Sure enough, Danzo suddenly let out a muffled roar, and the first-generation cells on the right arm suddenly rioted, turning into a towering tree in an instant. Danzo immediately cut off the arm decisively, and he was spared, otherwise he would have been swallowed into a big tree by the first-generation cells. Phew, Uzumaki Naruto, this time I lost completely. Danzo gasped. He gradually put down the weapon in his hand, his face helpless. Naruto looked at him and said lightly, I don't want to listen to your dying words. Don't waste my time, you better go down. Naruto was too lazy to be with this despicable guy who threatened him with a woman. The next moment, he disappeared directly behind him, and Kuu stabbed into his heart. This time, Danzo didn't have Izanagi's technique to turn the damage into an illusion. He could only feel the vitality of his body slowly draining, and his eyes became more and more blurred. Naruto originally thought that he would launch the final attack before dying like in the original book, but surprisingly, he did not do that, but fell straight to the ground, looking up at Naruto's figure. I lost. Uzumaki, Naruto, I hope you don't let Konoha fall. After saying this, Danzo finally closed his eyes. Shimura Danzo. Die. Chapter 194 S-Class Suiten, Water Style. Naruto stared at Danzo on the ground for a while, then finally jumped over the cliff, unlocked the enchantment, and came to Temari. Temari and Ichigan Sand Ninja were still in shock, because Naruto's battle just now became a ray of light in their eyes, and they couldn't see his trace at all. It was terrible. What's wrong? Temari, are you alright? Naruto put Shion down and stepped forward to help Temari with a gentle smile. Was holding Temari looked at Naruto with a look of reverence and admiration, and almost looked like she was about to throw her arms in her arms. Temari was punched by Danzo just now. Although he vomited a little blood, it was only a small internal injury, nothing serious, and he has recovered at this moment. It's okay, your strength is even more impressive than that at that time. Temari obediently let Naruto support him, looking at his face with a strange look in his eyes. Naruto turned his head and said with a smile, I still have a lot to improve, and my current strength is by no means the end. Temari looked at him with obsession. Oh, by the way, it's not too late, you'd better stay here and rest, I'll bring Shion over to seal the sprite. Naruto said suddenly after a pause. Temari frowned. No, you went through such a fierce battle just now, and now I'm not at ease, I'll go with you. No, it's dangerous there, you'd better stay outside. Naruto, I need your deliberate protection. I have dragged you down just now, and this time I don't want to see you fighting alone. Temari immediately retorted after hearing this, with a very firm expression on his face. Naruto shook his head helplessly and sighed. Really, calm down, that task can only be done by me, it's too dangerous for you. Temari couldn't help biting Kiba, watching Naruto turn around and put Shion's figure on his back, with a hint of loneliness and complexity in his eyes. As his fiancé, why didn't he even give him the chance to share his troubles with him? Ziyuan sat on Naruto's back with his mouth up, and whispered in his ear, Hey, Naruto, what is this woman's relationship to you? Why is it so annoying? Naruto heard Kwanghan. He hurriedly glared at her. Don't talk nonsense. No matter how you look at it, you're always chatting in my ear. You, humph. Ziyuan was annoyed for a moment, and immediately turned her head away with a snort, ignoring him, but her hands tightly wrapped around his neck and deliberately used some strength. Hey, do you want to strangle me? Mikasama, no one will protect you and seal it. Naruto jumped, just about to rush through the valley and continue to the ancestral hall. However, at this moment, the terracotta warriors and horses in the valley had already adjusted, and they climbed up the cliff in groups. It seemed that they wanted to drown Naruto first. Seeing this, Temari couldn't help but snorted. "Naruto, you go first, leave it to us here." Naruto looked around, slightly estimated the number of these terracotta warriors, and frowned. "You can't deal with so many numbers. I'll help you kill some of them first," he said softly and stretched out his palm. "Enough of Naruto, your chakra can't be consumed anymore. We are here." Temari couldn't see Naruto being so brave and wanted to carry everything alone, and scolded him. Naruto was slightly taken aback, but he just turned his head and smiled. "It's okay, Temari, it's nothing to me." Temari wanted to say something, but was suddenly shocked by the powerful chakra in Naruto's palm. I saw Naruto's outstretched palm, a light blue Rasengan suddenly formed, and then with the strengthening of his chakra, the light blue color slowly turned into dark blue. At the same time, the dark blue energy there was a sudden burst of water vapor around the ball. "This is..." Temari and all the ninjas behind Temaro were startled. Ziyuan looked at Naruto curiously, his face was full of admiration. Naruto was really strong. The next moment, Naruto reached out and threw the dark blue sphere into the valley. The energy ball traversed a graceful trajectory in midair, and fell lightly into the piles of terracotta warriors and horses. Suddenly, the valley shakes. The place where the energy ball fell suddenly burst into a surging water wave, like a tsunami wave that suddenly spread out, covering 1/5 of the valley, and the spread energy turned into a continuous rotation. Churning, cutting water with sharp blades, a storm generally enveloped all the terracotta warriors within range. In the eyes of everyone above the valley, they only saw that after the head-sized chakra ball fell into the valley and disappeared, the area attack that erupted afterward turned out to be like a small Uzumaki storm. The waves can even be felt on the cliff above the valley. That technique is so powerful. What kind of magic is this? Temari's small mouth could fit an egg, and he stared at Naruto dumbfounded. Naruto chuckled. "This is my newly developed ninjutsu called Suiten, Water-Style, Vortex Giant Blade. It is an advanced technique of Rasengan." Temari looked at Naruto like a monster. Such a Suiten, Water-Style technique is enough to be included in the S rank. This guy is in addition to the S rank Futon, Wind Style, like Futon, Wind Style, Rasenshuriken. In addition to ninjutsu, the S-class ninjutsu of Suiten, Water Style, has been created. It seems that one is not enough. Naruto looked at the endless terracotta warriors and horses, and then stretched out his hand to condense a huge eddy current blade, which he threw down like a valley. There was another shock in the valley, and a wave of air rushed to the face. 2, 3, 4, 5. Next, Naruto threw out several eddy current giant blades in a row, directly turning the entire valley into a vast ocean. The monstrous waves Uzumaki calmed down. All they could see was the appearance of a shallow lake in the valley. And those terracotta warriors and horses puppets have long been twisted into pieces by the power of countless vortices. Even some intact ones have been submerged in water and cannot come out. And when he used 5S level Suiten's Water Style at once, Naruto's chakra was also consumed a bit more, almost more than half. Fortunately, his current chakra recovery speed is also very fast, and then he only needs to take the opportunity to recover a little while on the road. Seeing Naruto leaping away with Shien on his back, Temari and Zongsha Ninja were still in amazement and disbelief. They thought that Kazekage Gaara in the village was already strong, and chakra was also terrifying, but it was comparable to Naruto. Chapter 195 Seal Sprite. After eliminating the puppet in the valley, Naruto hurried to the ancestral hall. Although those puppets are immortal, it is not so easy to recover after Naruto's fierce attack. So before leaving, he directly asked Temari and others to rush to the vicinity of the country of ghosts to support the troops there. Temari had no choice but to agree. Along the way, Shien held Naruto's neck tightly, looking at the ancestral hall that was getting closer. Her body tightened slightly. When I came to the entrance of the ancestral hall at the bottom of the mountain, I saw countless terracotta warriors and horses crawling out of the ground from the entrance. Naruto ignored these puppets and threw Hiraishin Kunai into the cave. A Horatian magic belt Xian appeared in the ancestral hall. Said to be an ancestral hall, in fact, this is just a relatively special cave. Naruto put down Xian, and the two stood at the entrance of the cave, looking into the cave. At the center of this ancestral hall is a large independent rock. The bottom around the rock is full of those boiling magma, and a stone bridge goes directly to the feet of the two of them. Xian glanced at Naruto with a slightly hesitant expression. Naruto nodded towards her, giving her an encouraging smile. Naruto, I'm going. Seeing his gentle smile, the expression on Xian's face became firm, and he walked forward step by step. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared on the rock in the center. It looked like a middle-aged man with disheveled hair, tall and with a charming smile. This person is Huang Izumi. Which, I didn't expect you to be here so soon. Huang Izumi laughed and waved his hand. Immediately, 4 figures appeared beside him. It was the 4 of Wei Tianjing. At this time, their injuries were all gone. After being repaired by dark ninjutsu, he looked at Xian with a sullen look on his face. When Ziwan saw Huang Izumi, she said coldly, "Spider, die. This time I will seal you completely." Ha ha ha, seal me, Miko, just try it. The sprite who recovered from Huang Izumi's body laughed and looked at her playfully. Ziwan looked back at Naruto, and a feeling of unease suddenly surged in her heart. Don't be afraid, with me, these clowns are nothing to be afraid of. Naruto said softly when a Horatian technique appeared beside him. When Ziyuan heard the words, there was no longer a look of fear in her eyes, and she walked over with her head held high decisively. But the strange thing is that Huang Izumi and the 5 people were unmoved. Let's get started. Xian nodded, then sat cross-legged on the ground, pinched one by one intricate handprints, and slowly displayed the sealing technique handed down by her mother. She has practiced this set of sealing techniques for more than 10 years, and the proficiency of the handprints has not been hindered at all. At the same time, the power of the priestess is also surging out of her body. With her as the center, a strong white light Jinchuriki column spreads out. Come, surround Huang Izumi and the others. Huang Izumi felt the power of the witch, with an intoxicated expression on his face. It's so familiar, I haven't felt this power for a long time. Xian is a little strange, sprite doesn't react at all. Suddenly, Huang Izumi's body suddenly changed, and a monstrous power surged out, overshadowing Xian's shrine power. Xian looked at him in shock. What's going on? Sprite grinned wildly. What a stupid witch. Didn't your mother tell you? My sprite and you witches are actually one in the same vein. The so-called seal is just your power returning to me. Ha ha ha, it's so stupid. Ziwan frowned upon hearing this, and immediately accelerated the handprint in her hand, and the power of the witch gushing out from her body. However, the sprite seemed to be enjoying it very much, and said lightly, "It's useless, witch, let's accept the reality, the day of our union has finally arrived. Let's conquer the world together." Ha ha ha, Xing laughed wildly, his body suddenly swelled, almost instantly, countless black tentacles drilled out of the body, shrouded towards Shiyuan. Ziwan sat on the spot dumbfounded, and the seal in her hand forgot the knot. She didn't seem to have reacted yet. Perhaps it should be said that she has not accepted this cruel reality. Didn't expect that the sealing technique that he cultivated day and night was just a key to liberate this monster. Is his existence only a part of this monster? So what's the point of sacrificing so many people for yourself so far? It turned out that he was being used all the time. The so-called witch turned out to be an ignorant guy who colluded with monsters. Her face was full of shock and pain, and she did not move at all in the face of the rushing black tentacles. Did the main body finally come out? Naruto murmured. The next moment, he dodged in front of Ziyuan, stretched out his hand to pull her up from the ground, and said lightly, "Ziyuan, don't listen to what he said, you are not part of him, but your strengths are mutually reinforcing, it only depends on you both. Who is more powerful among them? So, Xian, as long as you are stronger than this guy, you can successfully seal him." Xian couldn't help shaking. looking up at him with tears in his eyes. Naruto, is what you said true? Am I not a monster? Naruto smiled at him gently. Well, you are so beautiful, of course you are not a monster. So, don't think too much, use all your strength. I will help you defeat him. Just as Naruto was speaking, the countless black tentacles had already swarmed in front of the two of them. Naruto quickly handed the seal and then slammed it on the ground. Immediately, countless large branches appeared on the ground in front of the two of them, and they also flew towards those black tentacles. What is this? The sprite's surprised voice came, and those black tentacles were all blocked by the branches of Mokuden, wood style, and entangled with each other. The corner of Naruto's mouth twitched slightly. This guy is not as strong as he thought. At this moment, the four-way Tien finally dispatched. Kaden, fire style, head hard. Futon, wind style, Shen Lan. Raiden, thunder style, ground walk. Doden, earth style, rockfall. Wind, fire and thunder, four powerful ninjutsu rushed towards Naruto's Mokuden, wood style, and suddenly the cave was filled with thunder and lightning, and the wind was crushing stones, and Naruto's Mokuden, wood style, was also suppressed. These four people are really troublesome. Naruto murmured, hands sealed with both hands again, and immediately separated four shadow clone out and rushed towards the four of them. Zion, concentrate your power in my hands now. Just like the previous time. Naruto condensed chakra in one hand and controlled Mokuden, wood style, to constantly entangle with the monsters, while the other hand stretched out, let Xian pass the power over. Yeah, Xian nodded heavily, placing both hands above Naruto's palms, and a soft and strong force slowly poured in. Chapter 196 Successful Seal. Shi Yuan's long soft hair floated slowly, faint purple light flashed around her, and a basketball-sized purple energy ball suddenly formed in Naruto's hand. Zi Yuan, it's not enough, let's be stronger. He reminded. However, at this time, Xian slightly sweated on his forehead, and his expression became tired. Ha ha ha, Miko, you want to seal me even with your little power. You really underestimate me. The sprite's voice came, and its attack suddenly became fierce again. The chakra in Naruto's hands continued to be output, and countless giant trees flocked to the more and more black tentacles. The two were fiercely intertwined, and bursts of power fluctuations erupted. Naruto, I can't do it anymore. I have no strength. Xian bit Kiba and continued to output strength, and her breathing became rapid. Zi Yuan, you can't give up. I believe you have this potential, don't you even have this confidence and perseverance? Naruto shouted in a deep voice. Zi Yuan was shocked all at once. Yes. I must not be weak at this critical moment. If I can't do this by practicing and insisting on it, Naruto will definitely be disappointed in myself. Do not. I must not let him down. It is he who has always protected himself to come to this place. He is the one who removes many obstacles for himself to reach this place safely, and it is he who gives him unreserved trust and encouragement at the last moment. Oneself must not give up here. There was a strong desire in Xian's heart. Strength. I need strength. Xian's heart was screaming, her chest began to rise and fall violently, and her whole body trembled slightly because she used all her strength. Seeing her working so hard, Naruto's eyes showed a touch of admiration and encouragement. At this moment, a ding bell rang softly, and Naruto saw the small metal bell that Xian had been wearing beside his temples ringing. The crisp sound seemed to penetrate the entire ancestral hall. Zi Yuan was stunned for a moment, watching the bell fly in front of her, and an incomparably huge and gentle force came out from it, completely surrounding her. Is this the power that my mother left me? Xian murmured. While now, Naruto shouted softly. Xian immediately came back to his senses and understood, guiding the power of the bell into Naruto's palm. She looked at Naruto, her eyes firm and tender. This time, we will definitely be able to defeat the sprites. Boom. After feeling the huge power of the Wang Liang, it panicked, and the black tentacles rushed forward, temporarily suppressing Naruto's Mokuden, wood style, and at this moment, Naruto's hands also condensed. A huge energy ball, injected with the power of Shion, plus his own chakra, formed a purple Rasengan with a diameter of more than 2 meters. The corners of Naruto's mouth twitched slightly. Zion, this power is enough. After speaking, his figure suddenly disappeared in front of her, and the next moment he was already rushing straight ahead. With the crisscrossing Mokuden wood style, Naruto seemed to be a golden light usually. It flickers and moves between the black tentacles of the sprite, and the speed of the sprite is completely unable to hinder his progress. I see. Is this the main body? Naruto jumped high, looking down at a circular object under the countless black tentacles below, which was where Huang Izumi stood at the beginning. The next moment, Naruto dashed straight down, pressing the power of the witch in his hand fiercely there. Along the way, countless black tentacles tried to stop Naruto's progress, but when he encountered the huge witch's power, when the force was applied, they turned into fly ash and dissipated in the air. Ah! Finally, a shocking roar sounded, and the entire ancestral hall could not help shaking. The dazzling lavender light shot up into the sky, causing a violent impact. The collision between the power of the witch and the sprite made the entire ancestral hall vibrate. The violent force directly broke through the top of the ancestral hall, forming a purple light Jinchuriki in the sky. Column. Tamari and others who were not far away all looked at the location of the light Jinchuriki column. Did it work? Naruto, Tamari murmured. Naruto was at the center of the intersection of the two forces, and he was trying his best to control the power of the witch. He felt that the power of the sprite was gradually disappearing and receding. Finally, the light dissipated, Naruto stood there, the sprites had disappeared, and there was only a messy and interlaced lush tree, and the corpses of those spears. Without the support of sprites, these people it was also killed by Naruto's clone long ago. Turning his head, he showed a bright smile towards Shion who was standing blankly, and Naruto exhaled, finally kill that guy. Shion stood still for a moment, and finally cheered and rushed towards Naruto's arms, the whole body slammed into his arms. Naruto, we finally succeeded. Naruto hugged Shion's delicate body in both hands, feeling her soft back in his palms, and said softly, yes, thanks to you, Shion. Shion raised her head and looked at him with a fascinated face. At this time, the entire cave was suddenly shaken, and Ziyuan's face was slightly startled. This place seems to be collapsing. What should I do? Naruto smiled slightly. Hold me tight. A reassuring smile appeared on Ziyuan's face, her hands tightly wrapped around his neck. Naruto hugged her sideways, and with a thought, the figure disappeared in place the next moment. The dawn of dawn finally arrived, and the shadows that could not dissipate in the sky slowly receded. Standing on the top of the cliff, Naruto looked at the girl beside him under the shroud of the morning glow, and a smile appeared on his face. Ziyuan turned to look at him with a relaxed expression. Naruto, thank you. It's nothing, it's just my mission. Naruto said. But I still want to thank you. Shion approached Naruto, and suddenly reached out and touched Naruto's face that was dyed by the morning glow. You really changed your destiny, I'm very happy. Shion stood on tiptoe, stuck out Yuhi's face, pursed her small mouth and pressed it lightly on Naruto's lips. Naruto froze slightly. With her lips divided, Shion smiled softly. This is a reward for you. Naruto touched his lips and couldn't help but smile. If it weren't for your power, I'm afraid it wouldn't be so smooth this time, so your power also changed the prophecy of my fate. Ziyuan was slightly stunned. Have I changed your destiny too? Yeah, your witch's power can reverse time and space. This is what I know personally. I think you are the most capable person in this world to change fate, not to believe in fate. Naruto looked at it tenderly. She said. Naruto. At this moment, Ziyuan's heart was filled with great joy and satisfaction. With Naruto's encouragement and trust, she will never be weak and believe in fate in the future. The morning sun finally rose, illuminating the whole world, and Ziyuan closed her eyes, intoxicated with infinite longing. Chapter 197 Crash Again. The land of ghosts, the mansion where the witch is located. All the people fell into celebratory cheers. The successful seal of the sprite finally made everyone's hearts relaxed, and this world crisis was finally successfully stopped. And as the heroes who stopped this crisis, the ninjas and soldiers who participated in the battle have been warmly praised by people. In particular, Miko and Naruto, the two core characters who directly confronted the sprites, were now surrounded by a group of people, cheering, shouting, praising, and worshipping. A warm atmosphere. After a long time, people's enthusiasm gradually subsided. Kakashi Guy and others all returned to the village, leaving only Naruto, Shiro, Sasu and Yugao. Originally, they should have gone back with Kakashi and the others, but Shion repeatedly kept Naruto to stay in the country of ghosts for a few days. Although Naruto had a lot of things to deal with in the village, he still stayed with Shion for a while. After dinner, Naruto was called into her room by Shion alone. Only the three of Zuo-yu looked at each other. Damn, Naruto is messing with flowers again. Yugao bit Kiba and muttered in dissatisfaction. Zuo-yu frowned slightly and clenched her fists involuntarily. Ziyuan should just simply thank Naruto. Bai carefully defended Naruto on the side, but it seemed very unconvincing. Yugao and Zuo-yu ignored her and snorted. Yugao is inclined towards Zuo-yu, and has no sympathy for Naruto and Shiro towards adulterer and prostitute. Zuo-yu simply regards Shiro as a rival in love, and naturally has no good face. Seeing the attitudes of the two, Bai's face darkened slightly. Looking at the unwilling look on Zuo-yu's face, he hesitated. She knew that what she and Naruto did that day had hurt her young girl's heart, and she wanted to comfort her, but she felt powerless. At this time, Naruto was sitting on the bed in Shion's room, drinking the tea that Shion personally brewed. Naruto, is it delicious? Shiyuan looked at him attentively. This was her first time making tea. Naruto nodded. It's not bad. It tastes like this for the first time. You are great. Really? Great. Ziyuan heard the words, a look of surprise on her delicate face. The maids who were standing outside the door secretly paying attention to this place felt strange in their hearts. The priestess, who used to be arrogant and indifferent in the past, actually cared so much about this young man. They had never seen such a happy smile on Ziyuan's face. By the way, Naruto, can you promise me one thing? After a while, Ziyuan suddenly came over and asked Naruto softly. What's the matter? Naruto was leaning against her soft body, only to feel that his arms had fallen into a mass of warm softness, and when he looked down, it was Shion's bulging chest. Although the Sphinx was defeated by us this time, it will appear again next time. I'm thinking, in order to prevent the next sprite from breaking out, as a priestess, I must prepare as soon as possible for the next session. The cultivation of, Shiyuan said here, her tender face as white as jade couldn't help but sigh. Naruto's heart skipped a beat. She wants to confess to yourself. Having read the plot of the original book, he knows that the so-called next witch is to give birth to a child. Could it be said, she thought. You. Suddenly, Shion's body swooped up, knocking Naruto down on the bed. She was lying on Naruto's body, her soft body pressed Naruto's breath quickly, smelling the fragrance of the girl. Naruto's heart couldn't help but be restless. Naruto, I want you to help me train the next shrine maiden. Shiyuan pressed Yuhi's face close to Naruto's face and gently put her lips to his. Are you agreeing? The girl's delicate body exudes endless youthful charm, and Naruto can't resist this slightly green and shy confession. He involuntarily wrapped his hands around Shion's slender and delicate waist. Feeling the temperature on Naruto's hands, Ziyuan's water eyes flashed with ripples. She leaned down, and she kissed Naruto's lips forcefully. Soft, delicate, green, but sweet. Naruto only had this feeling in his mind. Unconsciously, the temperature in Ziyuan's room rose, and the candlelight seemed to flicker uneasy. The silk robe on Shion's body has completely faded away, leaving only a thin pure white bra. Naruto's clothes were also pulled open, revealing his strong and well-covered chest. Shion leaned against his chest with a fascinated face, listening to his steady and powerful heartbeat. Naruto, want me? Ziyuan's soft jade hand slowly reached down to Naruto. Zion. At this moment, Naruto was unbearable, this charming witch was so obediently sticking to his chest, tenderly waiting for her to pick, it was impossible for anyone to refuse. The next moment, he turned his body over and pressed Shion under him. Ziyuan's body trembled slightly, a little shy and a little scared, but then she showed expectant eyes again. Naruto, want me? I want to give birth to a child for you. Her soft jade hand slowly opened her pants, and took the initiative to open her slender and tender thighs, bravely looking directly at Naruto's eyes, anticipating his actions. In this situation, Naruto could not refuse, unable to refuse. He lowered his head and kissed Shion's soft lips, requesting the sweet body fluid from the girl's mouth. At this moment, the door slammed, and two beautiful figures appeared at the door. Naruto. Yugao glared at Naruto angrily. Zuoyu next to her had a bleak and complicated expression, and behind them, Bai sighed helplessly. You. Naruto raised his head in amazement, seeing the three girls in front of the door. All his desires retreated, he hurriedly sat up and sorted his clothes, and then helped Ziwan up. It was only at this time that Ziwan reacted, exclaimed, and hurriedly pulled her clothes over her body and hid behind Naruto. You guys, get me out. After exclaiming, Ziyuan also shouted with shame and indignation. It's really rude to do such a thing when someone knocked open his room so casually. What's more, he is developing with Naruto to the most critical step. These three people are really ignorant. Uzumaki Naruto, you really hooked up with the shrine maiden again. You are so inhuman. It's not enough to hurt Sasu once, do you want to hurt her a second time? And you have to hurt Shiro together. He growled angrily, then grabbed Sayu's arm and ran out. Naruto frowned, gave a wry smile on his face, glanced at Shion and Shiro, and hurriedly chased in the direction of Yugao. When passing by Bai nodded to him and smiled slightly. Naruto, go after Sayu, I'll talk to Shion for a while. Naruto was stunned for a while, and then he realized Bai's intentions, and he couldn't help but be greatly moved. Chapter 198 Lost. After chasing the two out of the witch's mansion, Naruto finally stopped them in a forest. The two of Yugao stopped. Why are you following along? Yugao called angrily, turning around. Sayu just turned her back to him, so that Naruto could not see her face clearly. Zuiyu. Naruto ignored Yugao's yelling and called out to Zuiyu instead. Zuiyu's body trembled slightly and said slowly, Yugao, go back first. Yugao was stunned for a moment, a complex look flashed across his face, he glared at Naruto, and finally left. Seeing Yugao leaving, Naruto finally walked over, came behind Zuoyu, and sighed softly, Zuoyu, do you hate me? Sayu suddenly turned her head, and at the same time, her body slammed into Naruto's arms, knocking Naruto back several steps. Why do you irritate me like this every time? Her hands tightly grasped the clothes on Naruto's back, tears streaming down her face like Izumi. Do you know how much I like you? Do you know that in every lonely night, the only thing I think about is you? Do you know that for you, I gave up revenge, gave up power? I gave up everything is just for you. Zuoyu snarled at him hysterically, tears rolling down Yu's face, and her body trembled. Naruto opened his mouth, speechless. Zuoyu took a few quick breaths, and finally slumped into his arms. Naruto. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to experience the feeling of being alone anymore. Please don't abandon you. How am I? Looking at her pear blossoms with rain in her voice hoarse, Naruto was full of pity. Yes, he made Zuoyu wait for 3 years, but 3 years later, he was shown the same situation as himself and Bai, and now he let her see the appearance of entanglement with Shion. Think about it carefully, Zuoyu must be very sad. And after Zuoyu said these words, she hugged him quietly and sobbed silently. Did she regret her overreaction at that time? If he hadn't made that oath out of hatred, he wouldn't have fallen into a cold war with him, and he wouldn't have been suffering day and night. In the few days of the Cold War, Zuo-yu had already experienced the unspeakable loneliness and loneliness. The feeling that the whole world was leaving her was about to drive her crazy, and sometimes she also thought that if she forced her Naruto left by and returned to him, will he never be happy again? Is it possible to never see his bright smile again? These, Zuo-yu cannot imagine. But now, she finally couldn't bear the torment in her heart, and said the love she had longed for the most in her heart. Just to not be abandoned. Suddenly, Naruto moved and broke Zuo-yu's body. Zuo-yu was slightly shocked, raised her head, and stared blankly into Naruto's eyes. Naruto, you want to leave me? There was a deep despair in Zuo-yu's eyes. The next moment, Naruto suddenly lowered his head and pouted her soft lips, and once again embraced Zuo-yu fiercely in his arms with both hands, as if he wanted to melt her body into his bones. Zuo-yu's heart was shocked, her mind seemed to fall into a blank space, but she just stared blankly at Naruto kissing her indifferently, and a huge sense of happiness rose in her chest. Naruto, he didn't abandon me. Naruto, kiss me. Naruto, hold me so hard. Enough, the hatred has subsided. Unconsciously, Zuo-yu's pair of jade arms quietly climbed onto Naruto's shoulders. She raised her face and let Naruto kiss her recklessly, feeling the warm temperature at this time. After a long time, Naruto let go of Zuo-yu, who was about to breathe out. Zuo-yu, I won't let you continue to be alone, be my woman. Naruto said such straightforward words for the first time, which made Zuo-yu completely at a loss. Should you agree? Should you agree to it? However, he hasn't said how to treat himself. And Shiro's problem, Shien's problem. So many problems are there, how to deal with them. However, Zuo-yu had no time to think about it, because Naruto's hands had already reached into her clothes, and those fiery big hands had already climbed to the sacred peak, wanton caressing, touching, and rubbing. Well, Zuo-yu has completely lost any momentum in the past at this moment, and has also lost her normal thinking ability, jealous. Envy. Possession, all have been thrown out of mind. She couldn't help moaning and groaned. Xuanfeng was constantly full and firm, and her body gradually grew hot and restless. The numbness spread throughout her body, and it almost melted into her bones. Naruto, Zuo-yu murmured indifferently. She had never experienced this strange feeling, and after thinking about Naruto for countless days and nights, she could no longer take this pleasure from this moment. Even if she still has doubts and worries in her heart, but at this moment, she just wants to indulge Naruto once, even if it is only a moment of gain, a moment of satisfaction, it is enough to make up for the countless past. A day and night of torment. Feeling the rising temperature of her body, Naruto had already fallen into a fascination. He had not satisfied the desire to subside when he was halfway with Shien, and finally burst out at this moment. Holding the girl in his arms, he fiercely pushed her to the trunk. Zuo-yu looked at Naruto with blurry eyes, her hands were clinging to Naruto's neck, her chest was slightly puffed out and she enjoyed Naruto's caress. Naruto took a breath, and finally pulled a hand out of her upper body clothes, and came down to hold her slender, round thighs. With a jerk, she undid her black shorts tightly wrapped around her buttocks with her fingers, revealing the mysterious area that was also wrapped in black briefs. Under the moonlight, Zuo-yu's face flushed Yuhi, even the cool night wind blowing under her body could not awaken her intoxicated mind. Seeing this scene, Naruto no longer hesitated, and decisively opened the zipper of his trousers, popped out the incomparably high-spirited firm, stiff, and separated Zuo-yu's panties covered with honey with his hands. His body was slightly stiff, and he suddenly pushed back. Up. Zuo-yu's body couldn't help but tense for a while, and the stinging pain when she entered her body finally made her a little awake, but she immediately fell into an even more frenzied passion. Yeah, Naruto, want me? Zuo-yu put her arms around Naruto's neck, inserted her hands and fingers into his golden hair, raised her head and let out a long low moan. Ah! At this moment, an exclamation suddenly came from behind the two of Naruto. Chapter 199 Yugao. Yugao couldn't believe her eyes. The unsightly scene in front of her made her whole body tense. It was an experience she had never had before. Seeing Naruto stroking Zuiyu's chest, the wanton stroking of those big hands, and the obsessive look on Zuiyu's face, she couldn't help but feel a commotion in her heart, and her body swarmed unconsciously. A stream of heat. Even she didn't know when her legs were twisting uneasy, she felt wet. However, what's even more exciting is that Naruto actually took out that ugly thing and stabbed Sayu's body. This made her startled, and she couldn't help but scream. And it was this exclamation that made everyone wake up from their fascination. Zuiyu's eyes widened and she looked over in panic. Naruto also turned her head, with vigilance on her face. The eyes of the two instantly locked on Yugao, who was hiding behind the bushes. Ah! Yuhi's face immediately turned bloody, and after a soft cry, she hurriedly pushed Naruto away, but because of the speed, what Naruto had just stabbed into her body suddenly affected the rupture below. With a trace of blood. Zuoyu couldn't help but snorted, a look of pain flashed across her face. Zuoyu, are you alright? Naruto saw that her feet were soft and almost fell. He quickly held her upright in his arms, and then glared at Yugao. Hey, you're actually doing peeping. It's immoral, isn't it? Quote. Yugao was discovered by the two of them and caught him, and she felt embarrassed right away. She was only halfway worried about Zuiyu, so she turned around and looked at the situation of the two of them. If Zuiyu was bullied, if so, stand up and help immediately. Unexpectedly, Zuiyu couldn't help but not resist Naruto, and she confessed loudly and gave her a hug, and then Naruto naturally pressed her to the tree. This romantic and passionate scene made her hesitate and wanted to go up and rescue Zuiyu. But Zuiyu is willing to go out by herself, doesn't she destroy others? So she can only wait and see. But I didn't want the two to do more and more unsightly, and this was discovered involuntarily. Yes, I'm sorry. Yugao quickly bowed his head and apologized. Up to now, there is still some discomfort between her legs, and after apologizing, she ran away like a fly. The two Naruto looked at each other. Zuoyu shyly smirked at Yuhi and glared at him. What now? What else can I do? Go on. Naruto pressed his mouth wide, and immediately put her soft and fragrant lips in his mouth. Him away, panting slightly. You bastard. You've already been found out and you still want to do it. Hurry up and go back. What a shame. Go back without going back. But he accidentally touched the wound below and groaned. Naruto shook his head helplessly, stepped forward and carried her on his back. I'll carry you back. I'll just go by myself. Zuoyu was still in the embarrassing situation of being discovered, and didn't dare to continue to get close, but he still couldn't resist Naruto and was pulled by him on his back. Leaning on his broad and warm back, Zuoyu's face showed a happy and contented smile. She gently put her face on his neck, smelling the unique breath of Naruto, and was deeply intoxicated. This moment. Naruto walked very slowly, and was quietly experiencing the warmth of this moment. The gentle Zuiyu also gave people a feeling of being a little bird. Recalling what she said just now, Naruto's heart was full of love and pity. Naruto, you will be responsible for me, right? Suddenly, Zuoyu spoke softly. The night wind blew slowly, and Naruto nodded. As long as you don't leave, I won't give up. Won't you give up? Bye. Zuoyu heard the words and was silent for a while. Her hands were slightly tight around his neck, and the expression on her face was a little nervous. Naruto paused slightly, turned his head, and looked into Zuoyu's eyes seriously. Zuoyu, I don't want anyone who loves me to be sad. Really? Zuoyu heard the words, her face darkened slightly, but then she laughed again. Although I am very unwilling, I will definitely do better than her. Because, I have already can't bear to live without you anymore. Naruto looked at her fixedly, as if to remember her bright and clean smile. He sighed silently in his heart. The harem, how difficult it is. Why can't he see that there is still jealousy and unwillingness in Zuoyu's heart when he wakes up? It's just gratifying that she no longer loses her temper as extreme as that day, which may be a change for her. The two walked quietly in the night, under the moonlight. Unconsciously, Zuo-yu lay on his back and fell asleep. After returning to the witch's mansion, Naruto sent her back to her own room, covered her with a quilt, sat beside the bed and quietly looked at her beautiful face in her sleep, whispering his name. With a slight smile, Naruto finally walked out of Zuo-yu's room. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of him, which made him frown slightly. 6th Hokage-sama. Azuki Yugao called him lightly. What's the matter? I'll go back if I'm fine. For the woman who disturbed him and Zuo-yu, he was not in the mood to talk at all. After a period of calm, Yugao finally cleared his mind a lot, and immediately felt worthless for Zuo-yu. This romantic bastard actually tricked Zuo-yu around and asked her to sacrifice herself under such circumstances. Body of. That's abominable, too beast. Don't you think that going on like this is hurting her? Yugao said coldly. Naruto pouted. You stopped me just to say this. Seeing the indifferent look on his face, Yugao suddenly became annoyed. You. Please take my problem seriously. You are completely hurting her, you know. Unless, you leave by. Naruto smiled slightly. This is my personal question, and you have no right to ask it. After speaking, he directly bypassed her and walked into his room. Yugao stared blankly at the back of him leaving, biting Kiba and shouting, "You bastard who plays with women's feelings. I won't let Zuo-yu be deceived by you again." Suddenly, Naruto turned his head and stared at her coldly. If you want to destroy our relationship, you will be responsible for the consequences. Yugao couldn't help but stay for a while. Chapter 200. Back to the village. Early the next morning, the four of Naruto left like Shion. Facing Shion's resentful expression, Naruto was also a little reluctant. Stepping forward, lightly holding Shion's shoulder, Naruto smiled and said, "Shion, I'll go back to Konoha first, and I'll see you next time when I'm free." Ziyuan's eyes were full of reluctance and attachment, and he lowered his head and pouted, "I know you have a lot to do, and it's impossible to stay with me, but you must promise me a condition." As she said that, she raised her bright eyes and looked at him with her incomparably longing eyes. "Next time you must help me have a baby." "Definitely." Forehead. Naruto felt the sharp eyes behind him, his expression stiffened, and he hurriedly gave Ziyuan a wink, but Ziyuan didn't seem to see it, and kept coquettishly, "You promise me." "Promise me." Naruto's heart froze when he heard this soft voice, so he could only whisper, "I promise you, I will definitely come to you. Next time you can do whatever you want." "Yeah, that's for sure. You're not allowed to lie to me." Ziyuan raised her head and pouted her mouth and said, "Take the kiss as proof." This time, Zuo-yu, who was behind him, finally couldn't stand it any longer. He pulled Naruto's arm and shouted, "Hey, go back soon. What are you still doing?" Naruto originally wanted to kiss her, but unfortunately, the vinegar bottle Zuo-yu was still there, so he was forced to pull her away in the end. Bai smiled secretly on the side, while Yugao looked at Naruto with a cold snort. Four of them soon set off on their way home. Along the way, Naruto approached Zuo-yu and whispered, "Are you okay?" Zuo-yu's expression turned slightly Yuhi, and she secretly glanced at Yugao and Bai, then nodded lightly and gave him a white look. "It's all right." She also has a deep resentment in her heart. Last night, she only felt the pain of being pierced, but she didn't taste the joy of being a woman at all. This is a tragedy. "Hey, it's fine." Naruto smiled. "Do you want me to go to your place tonight?" "Ah." Zuo-yu was slightly startled, and couldn't help but exclaimed after hearing Naruto's direct words. Yugao and Shiro who were in front of them couldn't help turning their heads. "What's wrong with Zuo-yu?" Yugao asked first. "Nothing." Yugao glanced at the two of them strangely, seeing Naruto's staring eyes. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't speak. "How do you want me to come over?" Naruto continued to ask. "Yesterday he just broke her in a hurry. After entering, he was interrupted without even moving. This was really a very depressing thing, and at that time, it was not easy to disturb Bai, and he vented his desire for Zuo Yu on Bai. He always felt that it was unfair to do so. So today, he decided to have a good conversation with Zuo Yu. You better go find your Mikasama. Zuo Yu just wanted to agree, but remembering how this guy was intimate with the Miko just now, she suddenly felt a little unbalanced in her heart. Naruto sweated a bit. It seemed that it was a bit difficult to eliminate Sayu's jealousy all at once. He let out a helpless sigh, and Naruto could only continue to concentrate on his journey. Seeing his deflated appearance, Zuo Yu secretly snickered. Asshole, tell you to mess around with flowers and weeds, I just let you eat. The four of them didn't travel very fast, and they finally returned to the village when it was getting dark. At this time, the village has already received the news of Naruto's return. At the entrance of the village, Tsunade, Shizune, Sakura, and the two advisors of the village, plus a few Jonin Kakashi Gai and others in the village, are all there. Welcome to Naruto. When the four of them walked into the village, Tsunade saw Naruto at a glance and called out, Everyone, welcome the 6th generation of Hokage to the village. Huh, what's going on? Naruto looked at the three people around him in confusion. Yugao said indifferently, You are already the 6th generation Lord Hokage. It seems that the 5th generation Lord has abdicated. At the same time, Tsunade had come to Naruto and looked at him with a smile. So soon it was decided that I would be the 6th generation. Naruto asked with a smile. Yeah, in this mission in the country of ghosts, Kakashi and the others have already reported your performance. The daimyo decided to support you yesterday, and Danzo's faction has not responded because Danzo didn't come back. So this time the role of Hokage is yours. Tsunade said with a gratified smile. Next, everyone in the village started various work for the 6th generation Hokage to take office. In Hokage's office, there are only Naruto, Tsunade and Shizune. What's wrong? Naruto, is there something important? You have to wait until everyone else is gone before you tell me. Tsunade questioned. Naruto nodded slightly, and told her that Danzo secretly wanted to kill him during this mission and that he was killed by him afterwards. After listening to Naruto's narration, both Tsunade couldn't help being taken aback. Naruto, you said you killed Danzo. Naruto nodded. Tsunade's eyebrows couldn't help frowning. This is really a tricky thing. Once Danzo dies, his subordinates who originally followed him will soon be in chaos. If effective measures are not taken, it will have a lot of impact on the stability of the village. She said seriously. Naruto agreed and nodded. Yeah, so we still have a lot of work to do next. The 6th generation of Hokage needs to rely on you to help me if it wants to sit still. Cut. Tsunade said in dissatisfaction immediately after hearing this. You made a mess yourself, and now you want to give me a retired Hokage to help. Hey, no, if you don't help me, my Hokage will be miserable. Naruto lamented. PFF'd. Seeing his distressed appearance, Tsunade couldn't help but chuckle. Okay, I'm joking with you. It's really rare to see Naruto you look so distressed. Naruto let out a sigh of relief. I've decided that you and Shizune will be my office assistants from now on. Giggle, alright, then we'll make trouble for you from time to time. I'd better open another bet here, and ask people to bet every day. How about it? Tsunade giggled. Naruto glared at her. Shizune couldn't stand it any longer, and pulled her sleeve aside. Master Tsunade, you really are. Now Naruto is the 6th generation Hokage-sama. Shizune, what are you doing so seriously? You haven't become an assistant yet, so you're thinking about Naruto so quickly. I think you can't stand it anymore. Haha, I know your intentions very well. Or I'll be a matchmaker. When Shizune heard this, Yuhi's face suddenly became embarrassed. He covered Tsunade's mouth and shouted in panic, Master Tsunade. How can you do this?